Hi, this is Dale Lear, designer of TRS-80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
This is CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer. It's time to drop your socks, grab your real-time clocks, and let's rock.
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Welcome to CoCoTALK episode 239. Today is the Dragon MeetUp 2021 from Cambridge, UK.
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Airmail might be blocked.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, and for those of you who are just catching the show at its regular time right now, you'll have to go back and see a whole bunch of footage we got from the Dragon Meetup happening live in Cambridge, England, at the Computer Museum, and it's going to be continuing tomorrow too. We got to speak to some of the people there. They had a trivia quiz. I did horrible on it. It's a good time. There's a lot of new stuff there. There's demonstrations of some of the new Sprite hardware and stuff that we've talked about on the show before. Some stuff we had not seen before. Some older computers that are kind of related, like 6809 based machines that I've never heard of before.
Like the
so it's a pretty interesting time. Sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Like the Positron.
Yeah, Positron 9000, I think it was.
Yeah.
To be specific.
And right now, everyone's headed over to the pub, so later on, they might entertain us.
Yeah. We'll get live sing-alongs and stuff right from an English pub. That'll be awesome.
Drunken sing-along.
Is there any other kind? I've been to the Coco Fest sing-alongs. It's pretty well the same thing.
Let's see. Intros. Top left-hand corner, we have a news correspondent, L. Curtis Boyle. Let me try that again. L. Curtis Boyle.
You have to excuse him. He's new to English. Welcome
I've
everyone to the show
already.
Yeah. You just say Ron from Arizona. You don't have to say the last name.
Okay. Hey, Ron.
Hey.
And next over, we have Ken Waters.
Hello.
And Sloopy Malibu.
Greetings.
And next over is me. Hi. Next up, Marco.
Our tongue-tied host, I'm going to call you.
Hello, I'm here.
We're trying to get in the groove here, having 10 minutes notice to go live.
Well, it's been a while since you've broadcast. Do we need to retrain you?
Well, everything worked amazingly, so we'll see. Let's see, where were we? Jason Reichard.
Howdy.
All right, next up, Patrick Ulland. Rick, how you doing?
I missed the whole dragon thing, man.
Oh, well, it's on Twitch anyway.
Yeah, we streamed it to Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube, so you should be able to catch it later.
Hey, and next up is Simon Jonassen.
Hey guys.
Hi, Simon.
And last but not least, Nick Marentes.
Good day, everyone.
And Nick, you didn't wake up at, what would it have been for you, about 11 o'clock at night to watch the Dragon thing?
That's right. I was throwing some serious Z's at that time.
Wow, you said Z's instead of Z's. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I did the American.
Is that why it looked upside down?
He's been hanging out with Americans
I'm standing on my head.
That's a live translation thing that Nick's working on. Yeah.
Okay, well, I got to see most of it. It looked pretty interesting.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask the panel here for those of you that were watching either live stream or even on the Zoom call with a few of us. Like I know Ron, you were there. Mark Mosley, you were there. I was there. Stevie was there. What did you guys think of what you guys saw, including like that new VGA output? That's not a CoCo VGA, but it does add a few extra things, but just sockets into the CPU socket, no soldering required.
Pretty awesome. Nice, clear picture.
Yeah, and you can control the palette. You can control. They actually showed Chucky Egg playing with a completely different palette. So Stevie thought it was a CoCo VGA. It's not. It's this new board.
Was it internal? An internal board?
It just plugs in the CPU socket. No soldering. You just unplug the CPU, plug it in this daughter board, plug the daughter board in the CPU, and then you got VGA output that has user selectable borders, user selectable palettes, but it's completely compatible with the 6847 stuff. So you can just play your old games. It's kind of like having part of a CoCo 3 with the palette command stuff that you can control from BASIC.
Could be a problem for anyone who's got a normal 2 meg memory board.
On a Dragon?
Well, you need to put the MMU thing under the CPU. Don't you? No?
Are you thinking CoCo 3 or are you thinking Dragon here?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, stop standing on your head, Nick. I think it's affecting the blood flow.
When we talk Dragon, we're talking CoCo 2, basically, right?
Yeah.
It was cool seeing some of that stuff. And then, as Ron had mentioned, there was a bunch of these other ones. They had a Fujitsu FM8, which is a dual 6809 machine that came before the Fujitsu FM77, which is a dual 6809 I'm familiar with. So I didn't know they had an older one. It had like old yellow keys. It looked like a late 70s machine. Looked pretty cool. They had the Positron 9000, which is a 6809, 2 megahertz. It almost looks like a gimmick. It's like it's an industrial grade machine. It had like a huge motherboard, MMU, tons of RAM. You could add in tons of serial ports. It was meant to run terminals for the most part, but very large machine. And then there were some other 6802 based machines and stuff there too. So
yeah, that machine had what, OS9 and ROM, didn't it?
Yeah, OS9 level 2 in ROM. Yeah,
that'll boot quick.
Yep, and you could alternately tell it to with a dip switch or something on the side or something like that. You could tell it to boot off of an actual floppy drive instead if you wanted to boot something else. And then Stuart Orchard also showed off. He's doing a new version of Flex, right off the original TSC version of Flex. So not based on the Frank Haug one or the Spectral Associates version we saw, but an actual raw conversion of the original 1979 Flex, which actually predates the color computer itself, never mind the Dragon.
I was surprised that we couldn't interview Mr. Cuthbert. I guess it didn't show, or
I think he was busy with all of his fans, signing autographs. He was probably charging $5 a crack.
Yeah,
questing.
He was very popular.
£5?
£5. Oh, you mean the price for the signature?
Yeah.
I don't know if they were selling pocket money software and some of the other software, like during the game trivia thing, where they're selling software for £1.99. It's probably got to be cheaper than that, right?
Did you see a whole tray of cassettes? I guess the guy was selling seconds. That would have been cool.
Yeah. There's a few people. Chris Bocher, unfortunately, wasn't able to make it down there, but he's the head of the microdeal group on Facebook. There, he's got a ton. He showed it to us when he was on our Dragon Special 1. And then was it Simon that was actually selling the other ones there? Where he's got so many seconds and duplicates, so he's selling some of them off to spread the love a little bit for the original cassettes. He actually had some Dragon user magazines for sale there too. It looked like. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. A lot of cool stuff there. So definitely go review that stream, after we're done watching CoCoTALK today, which will be a little bit shorter. We're hoping that they'll be by again, from the pub there to kind of, give us another bit of a rundown. They're also running the show tomorrow, so we'll see if we can arrange streaming there too, and maybe we can get a bit more interactivity with some of the guests and stuff. Ask them some direct questions, because there's some pretty interesting people there. Like all three of the active Dragon game developers, Stuart Orchard, Kieran Anscombe, and Steve Bamford are all there. I mean, they're all the ones kind of writing the new games right now for the Dragons. So that was really interesting to see, three developers. And we saw Stu and Kieran talking quite a bit. So I don't know if they're talking about a new game they might be working on or something. Who knows? Simon, I was going to ask you, did you manage to catch most of the stream, or did you only catch the tail end of it?
I only caught the last part of it, Curtis.
Oh, okay. I was hoping to get your feedback because, you were in the UK when the Dragon was out, right?
Yeah, but I never had one.
But did you have any friends with it at that time, or did you get into it a little bit later?
Well, I got my CoCo 2 back in like 1984, 1985. I used to go to the library, and because you could actually borrow like cassettes from the library to load into your machines, you could actually borrow cassettes from public library. And I used to try and get Dragon software to run on the CoCo, and it was like, well, yeah, I know this machine is compatible, but they're not.
Yeah, the keyboard is definitely different. That's why I had to patch that 3D Space Wars for the gameplay.
Exactly.
No, they didn't make a cassette interface or a cassette specifically for Dragon, did they? I wonder, what was the most popular?
You mean like a Dragon
cassette?
Data branded cassette?
Yeah.
I think they did, though. I think it also advertised it didn't need that. It would work with standard cassettes. If I remember
what
correctly.
the most popular one was, like a Sony or Panasonic or
Philips.
It's kind of like the monitor thing we were talking about during the Dragon stream there too, because I'm not sure. Like they didn't sell their own Dragon branded monitor, and they had composite out and RF out, so you could hook it up either way. But they didn't actually sell one themselves. Though I think somebody was mentioning they used a specific model that they used in all their photo shoots and stuff for the Dragon when they're advertising.
Was that the Sony Trinitrons?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was mentioned in the chat. Somebody actually mentioned the specific model. I don't remember the exact one. I'd have to scroll back up.
But it's basically a different kind of manufacturer. Radio Shack was, we'll have 10,000 SKUs around this computer, and Dragon was, here's your computer. We're putting our money into that.
And that one 6802 base machine was kind of a bit of a surprise, because 6802 is like a direct cousin of the 6803 and the MC10. But that machine that they showed it on actually, had like a Sprite chip and some other stuff in it. So a different graphics chip entirely wasn't VDG based. That was kind of an interesting one I'd never seen before. There's quite a bit of interesting stuff in there. So, but I'm glad like some of you got to join us. It was kind of like last minute that we actually got everything officially finally ironed out between Stevie and Richard Harding. Big thanks to Richard for helping arrange getting the live feeds and stuff like that. But I think the final details that weren't even ironed out until Thursday or Friday, maybe, at that matter. So it was kind of last minute. We were trying to get everything in place. I would have tried to help a bit more, like I normally do with these specials, but I got super busy with work, so I wasn't able to help much at all. So my apologies to Stevie for kind of dropping the ball in his lap. But he came through. Okay. And I do hope to eventually get out to one of those shows myself. That'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it looks like we're going into more lockdowns.
Yeah, well, that new, what is it, Omicron, or what are they calling the new South African variant?
How many here on the panel has a Dragon? I have one. Anybody else? 2?
I have a Tano Dragon.
Yeah,
I did have one. I did have one, but I sold it to Fido. I sold it to Fido's Demon, or I swapped it with Fido's Demon for a CoCo 3.
Nice.
That's not a bad upgrade.
Right.
Good.
All right, we ready to jump into game on, or?
Yeah, we can do the game on results, and then Sloopy can talk about the live play stuff and tips and tricks, etc. So yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, let me find the right button here.
High Score Challenge with Nick Marotta.
All right, you've been flagged. You need to be retrained.
Welcome everyone to the results of this week's Game On Challenge, where we played 3D Space Wars. There were a total of 16 participants, so let's see how everybody did. We had Ron Delvo with 10, CoCo Discord user 230, Mikey 280, Mark O 300, and sharing 12th spot was Tasman Scott Cooper, also with 300. Brett with 400, Exile in Paradise 660, Jim Rye 1030, Canadian Retro Things 1380, Buck Owens 1520, Rich N 1740, Mr. Dave 6309 3270, Malik 256, 6800. Sloopy Malibu 7970. Brian Walsh 8230. And the number one score this week is Eric Omont with 14,620.
Good job.
Thanks everybody that played, and we will see you next week.
Okay.
All right, so those are the results, and this was originally a Dragon game. So let's see here.
And hopefully the people that were trying to participate actually did catch that I quickly uploaded a hacked version to switch the keys over to the CoCo style keys.
Or you just keep hitting keys till something happened.
Luckily, the arrow keys worked either way.
So this is the cassette sleeve, a picture of it, and as you can see, much better graphics on the outside of the program than the CoCo usually had. So it was
there. I finally got out of the way.
See. So that's
So probably no one loaded this thing by cassette.
no, I don't think so.
I wonder
well,
how
this game
long
was
it
never
would be.
sold in North America in cassette or disc format for that matter. So
And then we
You
had
mean we're playing the Dragon version?
Yeah, it was the Dragon version was on the archives. So
yeah, remind me afterwards, Ken. Here, I got to upload the CoCo hack version. I was hoping some people would give me some feedback because I wasn't sure if I caught all the keys to get them remapped properly. So
okay,
if it looks like it's working okay, I'll get it uploaded to the archive.
I personally did just play the Dragon version and just kept hitting keys till something happened. So there was a few reviews of it. This particular one said that it was boring, a boring game that's been done 1,000 times. And so not very favorable. Said he got bored on it after about 120 points. And then this one was a little bit more...
It does say it was well written, though.
Yeah. But this one was much more favorable. It was a well-made space shooter, a worthwhile romp through the universe for those with time to kill. So, yeah.
And there's something interesting about the word side abs, right?
Yeah, and side abs is baddies spelled backwards. So your bad guys were the baddies.
Yeah. No, it had a good 3D perspective. The shots, the sound, like they said, is not too bad. It's actually got some running background sound. I like the fact that each wave, the baddies look totally different. You can see almost like a Cylon Viper ship in some, and there's definitely some recognizable hints at some TV shows and stuff from around the time. But that actually changed every round too. Like that was something that was nice to see. It wasn't just shoot aliens, keep shooting aliens, all looking the same.
And here's a little some footage from Mikey.
I will mention one thing. The original version for the Dragon, of course, because the Dragon was running PAL, they did not have artifact colors.
Yeah.
So this is meant to be a black and white game. So if you have a CoCo 3 and you played an RGB monitor like a CM8, you'd see it the way the Dragon people saw it. But I found it odd that the fuel gauge, they use vertical striped lines, which turns out to be a perfect solid color when you're playing artifacts. So the fuel part, it actually worked out okay.
And it would flip to another color if you were out of sync.
Yeah, the phase thing, the reset button. Also, I don't know if any of you noticed there, but if you look upside down on the very top, it says danger.
Yeah.
On the border.
Oh, I missed that. So, yeah, playing it with the artifact colors was fine until you got to the end screen, which was pretty hideous. The white and pink.
That is very true.
But for tips and tricks on this game, well, the only thing I really noticed was that when you're refueling, the bad guys don't shoot at you. But if too many bad guys swarm around you, then your refueling ship will leave. And then you won't be able to use it at all for the rest of the level.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to play it, unfortunately. I had a chance to patch it. I thought I was going to have the week off, so I had lots of time to play it. And then all of a sudden work got busy again, so that didn't happen. And I do like some of the effects too. Like the shooting is standard, 3D shooting at angles type thing. But when you get hit, your shields kind of electrify. That's a pretty cool effect.
So all in all, I'd say a fun and well-made game.
Yeah, nice graphics, nice detail.
Interesting fonts.
Yeah, it ran on 32K, so I mean, it didn't require Dragon 64 or a 64K CoCo.
So what did anybody else have any tips or tricks on this game?
Well, it didn't seem to be real responsive when you're trying to swing around and get one of those guys.
Well, it's I think it's like Stellar Lifeline. It's got momentum. So when you're moving in one direction, it takes you a little bit to reverse direction. You keep going in the direction you're going. So it does have a momentum.
More like real physics
aspects to it. Yeah.
You can't turn on a dime.
Yeah, I noticed that there was a lot of it's responsiveness. I mean, it's like what he said, and yeah, there is momentum. But when I would hit the control to go left when I'm following them, sometimes it would go even more when I would hit and repeat the key using the keyboard joystick emulation. And eventually I actually tried using a joystick, which, yeah, being the Atari guy, I had to use an Atari joystick. And these things are really nice. Works well in XRoar if you want to try them. It's the Stell adapter.
So this game favored Switch style joysticks. It didn't require analog.
But yeah, when I was using the joystick, I didn't have the problems of having to re-hit the directional when I was using the joystick, as opposed to using the keyboard emulation joystick.
Okay. Did you try with actual keyboard controls where it's set up to be a keyboard, or were you trying joystick controls with a keyboard? Okay.
No, I didn't. I couldn't figure out what they were, and I'm so used to the keyboard controls because usually on the CoCo you have the up down on the left and the right and the left right on the right, which is kind of confusing for my brain because I'd never really used a setup like that. I've always had control in the right hand and firing in the left, so it's something that was a little difficult for my old mind to wrap around.
Another question I had for everybody that played it too: if you have a CoCo 3, did any of you try it on double speed? Because I know it gets a little bit bogged down when you get heavy. And I was wondering if anybody tried it full double, and what was their opinion of it?
Made it a little bit harder when you're trying to aim in on them when they're starting to come at you, I kept overshooting. But other than that, it did respond quicker.
Okay. Anybody else try it? Ken?
Nope.
When I tried it on the on VCC, it wouldn't work for me. So, because I wanted to try it with the double speed poke, because I figured it would help it. Because when you had a lot of the Sabadabs on the screen, it would really slow down quite a bit.
So what would you do? Poke it and then load the program and execute it?
Yeah, that's what I did with VCC.
Yeah. You just loaded that new poke 65497, and then exec it after that.
I mean, I did try playing it on a CoCo 3, but it just it would play for a while and then it would crash.
Now, was that my patch version or the original version, or both?
That was the original one. I did not get a chance to try the patched.
Also, Simon, I mentioned at the top of the screen there, I don't know if we can show that again there, but apparently it says Danger Man, not just Danger.
Let's see.
We'll
try and do that.
Take a screenshot, flip it upside down. Take a screenshot, flip it upside down, turn it back to front. It says Danger Man.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it does.
It does. So I guess that must be who you're playing.
Hey, that's a second wave there.
Yeah, this one looks like the Vipers from the original Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, that was my first thought.
Or the transports from Star Wars, like Episode 6. And they're going to the constructed Death Star, under construction Death Star.
Yeah, I guess it could have been that too. But they definitely borrowed some inspiration from some famous TV and movie ships.
All right, so I guess Sloopy, how did the playthrough go this week?
Yeah, it went a little. It went all right. Let's see here.
It was on a different day, so.
Yeah, I had to do it on a different day. So let's see if it'll allow me to share my screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, we had up to 3 people playing at once, and obviously it was a little limited because of the holiday this weekend in the U.S. So hopefully we're going to be able to get more people next week. But this was an excellent game. A lot of people played, and we actually had a few that were watching the show and playing out in the audience. And I want to shout out to Greg Ferguson for playing, and hopefully next week he'll be able to join us. This coming week we'll be doing the normal Wednesday show. And I also want to put a question out there, is because I know that I was told that there's these things called time zones all around the planet, and that different places have different times, which I'm not too sure about that, because U.S. East Coast is the most important one. But I was thinking having a Game On Challenge Live special for the people that are over in Europe, because normally when we start the show, it's anywhere from 11 p.m. till 2 a.m. over there. So I was thinking about having a special that starts at a more reasonable hour for people over there, so that they can actually join in and play. So I wanted to get some feedback from people on that, and see how that goes.
So here, right now, here in Denmark, which is Central European time, it's 19:33.
Okay.
So 7:43 is that? PM?
7:33, yeah.
Yep.
7:33. In the UK, it would be 6:33.
Yeah, because I know that our show starts at 1 a.m. for Frodo, because he's like, yeah, it's a little late for me. If you started earlier, I would probably play. So I was thinking about having a show that's somewhere around, it would probably be in about, I was thinking like 3 or 4 in the afternoon here. So that would be about 2.5 hours, 1.5 to 2.5 hours from now. So so that the people over in the European area could play.
Yeah, that would be between like 9 and 10 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's somewhere between 9 and 11 for the various time zones over there.
No, this would be a second live stream for you then?
Yes, it would be I would have it do like I was considering once a month doing this, where I'd have
earlier in the day.
Yes, earlier in the day, from like it would be like 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until say 5 or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then have the regular show from 7 to 10.
So both on the same day then, or 2 different times of the week?
Yes, both of them on the same day.
So
And-
basically, Game On play through the European edition.
Right. And I was considering doing this
Called a
once
matinee.
month, so, yeah,
Don't
like
you-
a matinee.
Don't we need to catch those guys before they go to the pub, though?
Why?
No, because this way we get to win all the high scores. So that's
Yeah.
fine. Just don't say anything.
And yeah, there's definitely a few European people you could talk to about trying to push that, like Frodo.
Yeah. Well, I've already talked to Frodo about it. So
Okay.
that's because I had talked to him about actually being on the show, and he's like, well, the show starts at 1 a.m. here. And it's like, usually I go to bed between 11 and 12. So
And he's usually wrapping up his own Saturday
Right.
stream right about the time that we're.
Yep. So maybe I should just call it the BYOB party and have everyone come on Saturday afternoon and Wednesday afternoon and make it a big shindig. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I stated that and see how people feel about it, because obviously we've had no European contestants on the show, and we want to be as open and inclusive as we can. And I understand that it's a weekday, so most people have to get up early the next day for work and such.
No, that's a good point. It's a good idea, I think, too. The other possible options maybe have like a stream like, Sunday at noon or something like that, if that worked out for you, but I don't know if it does.
Yeah, well, I'm a jobless bum, so any time is good for me.
Way to sell yourself, Sleepy.
Hey, I call it like I see it.
That's why he's.
I don't think Slippy could do Sundays at noon because I know where he is on Sundays at noon my time anyway.
Yeah.
You're usually playing games with Frodo.
Yeah.
On Frodo's channel.
Was that what, a Matchbox Party game or whatever it's called?
Jackbox Party.
Jackbox.
Yeah.
Not that I've ever been there.
And today I don't work at all, no matter what.
No, I think it's a good idea. And if anybody in the European contingent can send them feedback, where should they send feedback for you, Sloopy, on that?
Just to the regular CoCoTALK email address.
Email? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you had access to that or not. So I thought it'd
No, I don't have direct access, but if something is sent to me through it gets forwarded.
They can always spam me on Discord too.
Yes, you can spam me on Discord because I have no friends there, so not many people talk to me. I could use more friends.
So, Sloopy, in addition to this, because not everybody that has a Dragon, heaven forbid, watches CoCoTALK, maybe, I don't know if you're a member of the Dragon group on Facebook already or the World of Dragon Archive forums, but maybe join both of those two, and then you can actually advertise that you're going to be doing this then.
Yeah, I've because of the timestamps, I had to join the Dragon group. And it was rather interesting because they're like, what are your interests in Dragon? And I'm like, I do the timestamps for CoCoTALK. I was like wondering if they're going to accept that. So.
Okay. And then the World of Dragon archive forum, we were talking to the guy that actually runs it. And it did a whole forum there that I'm an active participant in.
Yeah, I've actually read through it and read about the history on the Dragon and such. It's a very good, interesting read because, I mean, yes, I mean, as you know, Atari is my primary focus, but anything 8-bit from back in that time period I'm interested in, and I have read through the World of Dragon with all the information and such that they have on there, and the history is quite extensive and very thorough, and I rather enjoyed it, and I would recommend to anyone, even with a passing interest in the computers of that time period, to read through it because it's a very good read.
Yeah.
So, but yes, this week we had the show. We had a few people playing, and as I've said, I did notice that using the controller as opposed to keyboard was much better. The other big things that we learned was the refueling only has so much, and as you go up the levels, it has less and less. The other big hint and secret that we can impart is when you start a new level, look at the radar, and you'll see that all the SBADs are all in one spot, and then you'll see one single spot on the radar that's not moving. That is your refueling station. And so if you need fuel immediately at the start of a wave, you can go straight to it and be able to easily find it. The other thing is you want them to come from the top, because as long as they're below the center crosshairs, as long as they're above the center crosshairs, they can't hit you when you shoot. Once they go below, no matter where they are, they will hit you. And those are the two big tricks that we used to get high scores. And I won't mention the similarities between this and Star Raiders. We'll let that one go by because we covered it in the show completely.
Yeah, I did notice that the view count on the live show is actually pretty good. You're at 49 views as of the screen you're showing here, which I think is actually higher than it has been, isn't it?
Last week we had like 40 and 43 for the first and second half of the show because my internet went a little flaky and it cut the show into two. But yeah, we've been averaging between 30 and 40 ever since the first episode, and even the first episode we were at like 20, 25.
And now it looks like you're starting to push up towards 50, so it looks like it's taking off.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm trying to expand it to get more people involved so that we can get the word out there, so we can have more people join us and share in the fun.
And then the one other thing I would mention, maybe you can help push this, is the fact that the online XRoar emulator, after all the expansions Karen's done recently, you can now play CoCo 1, CoCo 2, CoCo 3, MC10, Dragon 32, Dragon 64 games all online. So if you don't have an emulator set up and you don't want to take the time to try to figure it out, you can actually directly link to that and just play them right on there to join in.
Yeah, because I actually helped the gentleman I was talking about earlier, Greg. I explained to him on the show how to get XRoar working. And as a matter of fact, this here is actually XRoar running. And this is VCC.
Yeah, no, it's nice you're expanding it and trying to be more inclusive, especially the Dragon folk or anybody who's just in Europe or not in the North American, South American time zones to join in. I think it's great.
Yep.
You might have to do an Australian special time too. Then
I don't have a time machine to go forward in time to be able to do one for Australia.
I think your normal time right now is not too bad for Australia. What time does it start for you, Nick?
It's usually on the day after in the morning. It's a pretty good time.
Yeah, it's the big thing is that because it's during the weekday, the majority of the people that are in Australia are going to be working. So
not everyone's a multimillionaire with fancy cars like Nick is. He's kind of semi-retired now.
I just have to be careful. I'm not washing the Ferraris at that time. That's all.
What Nick? What time is it there now?
Right now it's 4:43
a.m.
a.m. Sunday.
AM?
Sunday.
It's 4:43 a.m. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, if I just because I
15 hours ahead, roughly.
Yeah. So because I noticed that every episode you're usually there. You usually come in towards the end of the episode, which from what I understand is like so like around 11 o'clock in the evening for us is like 10 or 11 in the morning for you.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, so in order for me to do something in the evening for you, I'd have to do it like at 2 o'clock in the morning or something.
Yeah,
4 o'clock in the morning here. The only way I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning is if I'm up that late, not that early.
I was just wondering, like for the Dragon folks, where you're kind of shifting it somewhat, what time would it be in Australia for that show? Would that be a bit more manageable for some people?
Not really, because that would be about 3 hours from now, and if it's
it's still AM, I guess, in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only way to get around that, I guess, would be to try to have something on a weekend occasionally or something.
Yeah. So. All right, that's enough work today. I don't work today. Today's my adversary, so I'll hand it back to Ken.
All right. So I guess everybody is just on pins and needles to see what next week's game is. So this one comes as a suggestion from Rasculus. And I'm not sure anybody will recognize this, but
I know what that
Dung
is.
beetles. No.
Dung beetles. Oh, no, Megabug.
Exactly.
Art, disc, or tape.
So that's what we are playing next week. And as I said, that's a suggestion from Rasculus. And I was actually surprised to see that we haven't played that game yet.
Yeah, the Amigos, I think, have covered it on their show already, and they've only done 26 episodes, so we're behind the curve on this one.
And it is one that I actually own on cartridge. So
now we're playing regular level, not the advanced level, I presume?
Yeah, regular level.
Okay.
This was actually the first game I ever played on a CoCo. because it was common to be used in a store as a demo.
Yep.
I unfortunately played it on an
music, and
Apple.
all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
I've played it on the Apple too.
Okay, so Mega Bug for next week.
There we go.
That's a CoCo 1, 2, or 3. It was ported to the Dragon 2, I think, wasn't it officially?
That I don't know.
And if you have the cartridge, it only needs 16K, I think.
16K, yeah.
Yeah, and if it's on tapered disc, I think it might need 32.
32, I believe.
And joystick or keyboard, right? You can use the other.
I never tried it on keyboard. I always play with the good old Black Beauty.
I always use keyboard.
I'm a traditionalist. This is the first joystick I had for my color computer, and it's the one I still play with.
Okay. Shall we take our first commercial break to do all of our public service announcements, and then we can go into the news?
Yep, I'll start with the Game On news just to kind of carry on the torch there, but there's not too much of it, so that shouldn't take too long.
Okay.
You are watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading weekly video podcast, featuring the Tandy Color computer. We spread the love to the past, present, and future for all models, including the original color computer, the CoCo 3, and the world-renowned exclusive French-Canadian CoCo 2, the Radio Shack.
At CoCoTALK, we'd like to thank the patrons who sponsor our program, so our heartfelt gratitude goes out to Alan Huffman, Alan Murphy, Blair Ledoux, Boughton Aaron, Brendan Donahue, Brian Weasler, Karen Anscombe, D. Bruce Moore, Daniel Williams, Diego, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Graham Vebke, Grant Leedy, Henry Strickland, Jason Downs, Ken Reichard, Kyle Etter, Malfunct, Michael Pitsley, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Paul Thayer, Rick Ulland, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Stephen Wagner, Steve Batson, Steve Rasmussen, Terry Steen, Terry Steggy, The Backyard Shed Gang, Tom C., Tom S., Tom Heron, Tony C., and William Athing. Thank you ever so much, patrons.
Hi, this is Eddie Zerbinsky from beautiful Quebec City. Vous écoutez CoCoTALK.
As you're enjoying CoCoTALK, we also want to remind you about the CoCo Discord server. This is a place where people come to connect, to ask questions, to provide answers, to share information, and to socialize. So when you're done, why don't you head on over to the CoCo Discord server and we'll continue the conversation there. The easy to remember link is discord.cocotalk.live. See you on Discord. CoCo 123 is the Glenside Color Computer Club community newsletter that's been in publication since 1985. While the Rainbow magazine may be gone, it doesn't mean you still can't have a cool CoCo periodical. Head on over to the Glenside Color Computer website at glensideccc.com and then click on the Documents link to view all the past issues of the CoCo 123 newsletter. Not only can you read all of the past and present issues, we'd also love to hear some submissions from you. So if you'd like to send an article, a column, something to talk about, maybe even a program listing, send an email to glensideccc@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. The CoCo World Map is a cool community resource where you can view coconuts from around the world. Head on over to map.cocotalk.live and see where your fellow coconutians happen to be living on the planet Earth. If you would like to submit yourself to be on the CoCo Map, send an email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live, and we look forward to seeing you on the CoCo Map. Hey guys, it's Stevie Strode, and if you've been watching CoCoTALK for a while, hopefully you understand that everyone is welcome to join this show. You don't need an impressive resume to get on. You just need to enjoy the CoCo and be willing to talk about it. There is no wrong way to CoCo. There is no wrong way to be a fan of the CoCo. There's no wrong way to be on CoCoTALK. You just have to want to talk CoCo. So if you would like to join us, then reach out to us on our Discord server, which is discord.cocotalk.live, or send an email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live, and let's get you on the show and let's talk about the CoCo.
Hi, I'm Tim, and you're watching CoCoTALK Live. And I'm playing Daggereth online like that idiot from the book.
Can you dial back on the condescension there as you respond there? It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord This Week?
Hydra ADL. Hi all, I own a Tandy 102 portable computer, like the one I used to own back in the late 80s. I bought another earlier this year, and what a nostalgia trip. Keith Clark 1966. I have been a CoCo user since I was about 14 years old or so. My dad recognized my interest in computers and funded the purchase of my first CoCo one. Butters. Hi, I am new to CoCos with my first entry being a CoCo 1, I think it was modded to 64K. I grew up on Apple IIs and the TI. Currently have Commodores and my first Amiga as well. Having fun making and installing the RGB to HDMI boards on everything, including the CoCo. I have a lot of CoCo questions. Malik 256. Hi there. My name is Greg, nice to meet you all. I've got a few machines also. My friends and family tease and ask, when are you opening the museum? A late friend in my town did that, it was great. The previous bios were edited for time's sake. Thanks to Melly, Boysantech, Paul Fiscarelli, Terry Stagee, and the CoCoTalk patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. At discord.cocotalk.live.
Okay, welcome everyone. Screen share going, if I can find the right one.
I can see why Stevie got a much bigger stream deck.
Okay, as you're seeing this, Mikey's YouTube page.
Yep. Oh, he's in the trains.
Okay, so Mikey actually, I guess he's been doing this for a bit. He's been actually doing some CoCo-related stuff on his own page, which I didn't know about, and for some reason wasn't showing up on the searches. So he's actually done a few Game On linked ones. Now, he's actually using this to answer questions on pyDriveWire, which is a product that he does, which is kind of the Python version of DriveWire, since DriveWire 4 has kind of got some issues with having to use an older version of Java, etc. And Ken Waters there, I think you've been aware of this because you used some of his videos this week, I saw. So
yeah, the video this week was from his latest PyWire question answered and Game On video.
Okay, so basically he's using your segment as kind of an excuse to play some games. I guess he's not normally known as being a game player, but he's been getting questions on pyDriveWire, like how to set it up and how to get it to work with various operating systems, etc. So what he does is he takes a question that he's received about how to use pyDriveWire, and then he uses that to mount the current CoCo Game On Challenge game disc, and then of course plays it for a little bit, which is kind of cool. And he's done some other ones too. You can see one here, the DW term and see terminal emulation tests there too. But he's got two now, Lunchtime and Clicks to Island he did a few weeks back, which I totally missed at the time. And then he just did one on 3D Space Wars. So I'm hoping that Mikey actually takes part in these regularly from now on, because he's, like I said, he's not known as a game player. He's more of the developer side, but it's nice seeing him getting into the spirit of the Game On Challenge stuff. He's actually played more games recently than I have. So I've definitely got to start playing a bit more myself now that work's finally starting to die back down. So I will be taking part in Mega, but not very good at it. But anyway, he's got a couple there, and if you have just general questions on pyDriveWire, you can ask him on Discord, and if it's something that he figures is something that the public should be aware of, like it's not a very specific question on somebody's specific circumstance, but more of a general question, he'll probably do a little video kind of explaining how to do it, and then tying the game to it while you're at it. So definitely subscribe to his page. I didn't realize he even had one until he mentioned it in our Discord. So another reason to join our Discord as well. Next up, we have a short little video from Paul Thayer. Did an update on his CoCoBan project, which he's actually sometimes demoed coding for and testing on our Discord. That's a fairly short one, so I think I'll just play it right now, and you guys can get the word right from the horse's mouth here. At first glance, it'll look kind of like CoCoBan, but it's got so much more to it, and it is based, I think, on an Android game. You guys can kind of correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But he's definitely making some progress here, so I'll let him speak.
Hey there. Thought I'd show you a little progress here. This is my test level with like everything in it. We've got animated portals and a clock going on. The next thing I want to implement is the logo up there sparkles. I'm thinking like every 30 to 60 seconds. Do that next, and then from there it's getting the dirty tile list updated, and then each bringing in keyboard input and updating everything based on the players' involvement with the environment. And then once all the updates are done, we run the update functions for each object, and everything gets rendered. And right now I'm not even hitting the first line of the I got the border being measured in color. I don't have anything showing up yet. So looking good so far. I'm gonna have a minimal, dirty tile list and only updating what needs to be updated. So the biggest constraint probably is going to be the lasers. So get that figured out here.
So that's up there for Paul. Hopefully you guys could hear that. I know he recorded the audio a little bit quiet here, so I don't know how well it came across the stream there. Hopefully it was understandable. But yeah, it's a pretty big progress from when the last time I saw it. He's got these animated portals, he's got the timer running and stuff now. And he's doing a trick that a lot of game programmers have used, including Nick, where you change the border palette to figure out how much time you've got before the next 60 hertz sync interrupt happens. And it isn't even showing up on the screen yet. So he's using basically zero CPU time to do that little animation of the portals. So he's definitely got some time to figure out his laser paths and all that kind of stuff, and maybe some background sound and stuff too. So it was good seeing some progress in there. Next up, I will just play the little intro. This is the official YouTube release of the CoCo show from the Amigos here, featuring Donut Dilemma by some Ferrari-owning Australian guy. And I like both. So the quote at the beginning, which is true, which I'll let Nick explain for those who don't know the story right after I play it.
Donut Dilemma is based on a true story. It's the CoCo Show, episode 26.
So I won't play that because it's a nice long show. You should go watch the video if you're interested in it. But Nick, what is this true story thing about with Donut Dilemma?
Oh, well, it's true. I do have Ferraris. Is that the story? The other story. Okay, yeah. Donut Dilemma is based on a true story in that the idea for Donut Dilemma came from the fact that way back in the 80s, the early 80s, our family owned a donut bar or kiosk or whatever they're called in the US in a shopping mall. And so we had the donut bar kiosk, and there was a machine that made the donuts. And quite often that machine would screw up the donuts, and it would create all sorts of havoc just to clean it all up and restart it. So I'm looking at the thing and thinking, gee, that would make a really good game, So I came up with Donut Dilemma, and that was back in the days when I was programming on the Model 1. So the original version of Donut Dilemma was on the TRS-80 Model 1. But yeah, it was all based on a true story.
Now, if that was based on a true story, how angry was Angelo, really?
I was pretty pissed.
Was Angelo actually a worker at the donut shop and just a guy you hated, so you decided to make him the villain? Or what?
No, it's my dad. Well, it's meant to be my dad because he ran the shop, but I thought, Angelo, you got to have a Italian-sounding main character like Mario, so I thought, call it Angelo.
And plus, when we did the live recording of this show here on Twitch, which is actually got to be about a month ago now, you were actually in the chat, so you got mentioned a few times.
Yeah, that's right. I had a break from polishing the Ferraris. I thought I'll go in and see what they say.
Yeah, and obviously your check got through fine because they just praised the crap out of the game. So
yeah, they did. No, it was a good review, and it was good that the video they showed is the latest updated version I did just in 2019, where
we had joystick support and
well, back in the day I didn't know on the color computer how to read the joystick. And there's a few things I didn't like about the game because the game was written on the CoCo 2. And the CoCo 3 version I did end up doing at the time was a rush job just to satisfy Tandy, who said they wanted a slightly more CoCo 3 version. So all I did was change the colors to CoCo, to suit the CoCo 3 and run a few routines at the higher clock rate. And that was it. That was the CoCo 3 version. But the 2019 update was the proper CoCo 3 version with joystick control. I adjusted the game a bit in some areas which I wasn't happy with back in the day, made the game less finicky when jumping. So it's a fairly smooth running game. And the video they showed on the interview shows that version. And you can see you can pretty well hop along quite rapidly between the levels.
Now, one thing I wanted to bring up here, because a lot of people don't know about it, like you originally did this on the Tier City Model 1 and 3, and then, of course, you did the CoCo 1.2 version with some tweaks for the CoCo 3 version in 2019. But you've actually ported it to another platform, which a lot of people don't know about. And that had come up in the chat during the live taping. The Maximite, I believe it's called.
The Maximite. Yeah, Maximite's just a locally here in Australia made computer, which was in Electronic Magazine. It was a project that someone did based on I forget the name of the microcontroller, but it's a one-chip computer, and it runs 80 megahertz. So I thought, and I bought one of those. So I thought it's programmed in BASIC. The guy has written his own BASIC, and it was very powerful. So I wrote it for that, and it's written completely in BASIC on the Maximite, and it's got 8 colors. It uses Amiga mod file sound effects. Otherwise, it's very similar to the CoCo version.
Okay. Yeah, I know a few people had asked about it in the chat. They hadn't heard about the Maximites. I thought I'd get it from the horse's mouth.
Well, on the I did do a website on the Donut Dilemma 2019 update, and I do show there's a few versions as well, that other versions that have been made. In particular, there was an IBM PC version in development at one point, but it never got finished. And that one had all nice PC 24-bit graphics. There's a picture on the website, but it's got more advanced graphics. That would have been a good one to have.
Yeah, it's too bad the one never finished.
Yeah, that one was pretty good.
Anyway, enough about Nick here. I'm getting tired of talking about him all the time. So.
Yeah, I'm going to go watch the other Ferrari. So yeah.
Your check must have been delayed this month, Curtis.
Yeah, my check hasn't arrived yet. Obviously, the Amigos got theirs, but
yeah.
Anyway, all kidding aside, it's actually a really good game. We featured it on the Game On Challenge here fairly recently, I think, didn't we?
We did actually. Yeah.
I remember if that was when Ken was doing it. That was still Nick.
Yeah, I can't remember.
The CoCo 3, the new CoCo 3 version. That's on one of that. Is that on the Gunstar disc, or which one is that on?
Well, it is, I think, on the Gunstar CD, yeah. But you can download it as well. It's on my archive website. I think I've got a link there to it. So you can download both this new version as well as the original 1986 version, which had the PAL artifacting, the unmodded version.
Yeah, the one where you had to hold down 3 keys at once to throw dough.
Yeah. There was it was fine for me back in the day, but nowadays I just tangle my fingers up. So I thought it was time to get those joysticks into play. It's much easier.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't have the modified CoCo 3 version with the better controls and joystick support, etc., then just go grab it from Nick Marentes' Project Archive website for entry for Donut Dilemma. And if you don't have the URL handy, just search Nick Marentes' Project Archive and you'll find it on the web.
I think I've got a separate page. If you look at the menu at the very first page, you'll see Donut Dilemma 2019.
And just so you know, the Donut Dilemma was about 30 weeks ago.
That was back when Nick was still doing it.
Yep.
Wow.
It was week 63, and we're on week 94 right now.
Cool. I mean, it's a really good show. It's of course I'm always in their chat room when they're recording it. They'll record live on Twitch. They release it on YouTube literally about a month later. I think they just recorded last time, I think, Dungeons of Daggerath, which is a rather interesting review. And we're actually, if you're a member of their Discord, they take votes on what the game is going to be next time based on the criteria of having a certain category of games. I think that on the CoCo show in particular, they have 5 or 6 categories, broad categories. And then people submit, if they're a Patreon, they will submit, a list of these games, and then I'm kind of the moderator of that, so I'll pick 5 of them and put them up for a vote right before, the week before the show is going to record live, so people can actually participate in picking the games for them.
Is the Dungeons of Daggerath review page up?
No, like I said, they pre-record the Twitch ones about a month early. So the release on YouTube, if you go to Twitch, you can find it now, and it'll be there until Twitch expires at whatever time period that is. But that's the raw version, like with edited, non-edited. So if they had any connection problems and stuff, you'll see everything.
Yeah.
So this is the fine-tuned YouTube version of it.
Curious to see what they thought of Daggerath, because that is one of the.
It is interesting, but if you go on their Twitch channel, you can see it. It's on there. If you don't want to wait till the YouTube official cleaned-up version.
Yeah.
Anyway, next up, Jim Gerrie did a port here. Now, this is a bit of a different for him lately. I mean, it's something he's done before, but it's been a while since he's done these. He's been porting a lot of, ZX Spectrum games and ZX81 games and, games from like Creative Computing books from 1978. This time he ported a CoCo game. So this is originally from the book Fantastic Computer Games for the Color Computer, which we've shown. And I think, Ken, you might even have one of these, or somebody on the panel, I think at one time had some of these books. But this is originally written by Stephen Holliday in 1984, and it's called Speedboat. So he ported it to the MC10. I'll show a little bit of it.
Yeah, I covered this one on my channel because this was one of the games that I played a lot when I was a kid. It's one of the ones that I used to learn how to program by changing all the code to see what happens.
So a lot of games were done with this, steer down a moving road, and sometimes a road racer. But this one actually has things where you have to pick up objects, you have to dodge certain obstacles that you die if you hit on. Like you've got these little gaps here you've got to kind of narrowly navigate through. So it's got a little bit extra to it for this type of a game because it's basically just scrolling semi-graphics. But
although
actually not a bad one.
There's not usually a tail behind the boat.
But did he add that?
He must have, or a wake or something, because all the times I've typed this one in a few times, I've never had that.
Okay, so I wonder if that was just something he did himself, or is that a bug that he just never fixed?
Where's the furniture? Oh, wrong
This
game.
is water. You can't have the furniture there. So
furniture could be floating around in the water.
I don't know if you've seen these couches like the one Terry had there. They just sink to the bottom, so you never need to worry about it. Now, out of this particular book, Ken, was this probably your favorite game out of the book, or was it just an average, mediocre one? Or
I'd say this is probably my favorite one.
Okay.
There's this book was full of a lot of really good games, though. There's like 3 or 4 games I think that I really enjoyed out of it.
I like the trees.
Yeah. That was a theme I used when I tried writing a skiing game way back in 81, 82 too. So anyway, you can get that on Jim Gerrie's website, of course, if you want to download it and try it on an MC10 or one of the MC10 emulators, including online with XRoar. But that's what the game looks like. And then the last one here is, this is a series we covered before. So it's a YouTube site that's called I Only Did It for the Calculator Watch. And basically what he's been doing, there's some of these things they sold in the UK where it'd be like a bundle of 50 rather poor basic programs that would sell as a big bundle, and it was like, oh, you got 50 programs for the price of one type thing. Well, it was pretty well worth the 1/50th of a good program. This is not as good as the fantastic computer games that Ken typed in the previous game from. So this one is from the game 40 of the cassette 50, the Dragon 32, and this was released a couple of times. Now, a couple of these were done where they released an early version in 1983, and then they revised and upgraded some of the programs in the 1984 version. So in this particular case, and I'm unsure why they called this original thing they called Do Your Sums. It's actually not. The first program is just a dice simulator. It simulates a 6-sided dice, which is kind of boring. I'll just briefly show you what it kind of looks like here. Let me find a sample. Yeah, so there you can see it rolled a 5, it rolled 2. So it does try to, sort of graphically draw it out to look like an actual dice throw, but that's all it does. The second one was a different game, which actually is a bit of a game. It's called Derby Dash, and it's basically a betting on horses thing. And there was 2 versions of it. The 1983 version. Oh yeah, there's also this composing. It was called a composing Mozart program, which basically you type in the equivalent of a play statement. All it did was insert the word play in front of it and play whatever it is with no error checking at all. So he actually demonstrates getting an FC error by mistyping 1 digit, making it out of range. So that was kind of a dull one. But then he did a little horse betting thing here. Was it? Oh, maybe that was a second video. No, I think I forgot to put the link to it. Anyway, there's a basically horse racing game. The first version of it just basically did text these little numbers across for your numbered horses to bet on. The second one put in some very, very slow P-Mode 3 graphics, but it's not really a game. It's just like a random guessing game. So, but if you guys have never seen these before, this is kind of what it looks like. The cassette that they sold this on with the stupid ad in front. But these were basically dirt cheap. It was like if you wanted games not as good as the Fantastic Computer Games book, but you didn't feel like typing them all in, this is a cheap way to do it. But they're generally pretty low quality. And that's it for the Game On news this week, so not a ton. I'll switch over to the regular news.
From around the world, what you need to know. Get caught up on News with L. Curtis Boyle.
And now a Muppet News Flash.
All right, take it away, Curtis.
Okay, you're seeing Vintage is the New World there?
Yep.
Okay. So the first one up is Allen Huffman. He posted a couple of things this week. So this first one here is his part 2 article exploring the differences between the original VDG and the T1. And this actually sparked, I think, Kieran finding a slight bug on palette settings for the T1 VDG on XRoar, which he's since fixed. So the original VDG did not support lowercase. And these are basically the 4 different screen modes you could do. So you've got your regular text, you've got your inverted text, which is actually not, green on black, it's green on very dark green. And then there's the alternate color set version, which has this slightly off yellowish orange and then a really dark red. Now, one difference with the T1 VDG is that the color of the orange actually changed. And I hadn't really noticed this before myself because I don't have a T1, but now that he's mentioned, I do kind of remember people mentioning this. There's a few other differences too. If you want to tell the difference without actually taking apart the CoCo to take a look, you can tell by the shape of the O, because you'll see it's square on the original VDG and it's more rounded on the T1 VDG. The 0 will also have a slash through it, which the 0 will have a slash through it as well that the old VDG does not have. And the characters will shift. Like if you take a look here where the green border starts, you'll see on the T1, the characters are 1 pixel from the top of the cell, but they're 2 pixels from the top of the cell on the original VDG. Now this is to make room for descenders, like lowercase descenders, like a G or a P that you would go below. Unfortunately, for games that had actually used SemiGraphics 24 tricks to mix and match scan lines of different characters, like Protectors 2, which did these little waving men, it totally screws those up because now everything's a scan line off. So what you're trying to pick out to put on the screen doesn't match. And here he shows the different character sets there too. And of course, the T1 also had some extra bits enabled too. So the original one basically only had a few bits enabled for the screen color set, basically that orange, red versus the 2 different versions of green. The T1 added in like controlling the border color to be a solid green or a black square. It actually had an inverse video built in so that you can inverse the entire font instantly without you having to do any mucking around rewriting characters to the screen. So it had a couple of nice features. Those were carried over to the CoCo 3 as well. Unfortunately, we did lose all the semi-graphics, at least until the Gimme X comes out. But one thing you did notice here is that the colors of the orange in the background between a regular one, we can get that kind of off orange, doesn't happen on the T1 VDG. It becomes one solid orange. We actually lost a color. And there are some games I've seen on the Dragon stuff that actually took advantage of some, like some of the demonstrating of flames and stuff like that have used all the, like there's a regular red, there's a regular orange on the semi-graphics palette, and then there's these dark red and this yellowish orange you can get on the original VDG, and now the yellowish orange is just straight orange. You've lost an additional color if you're fiddling with semi-graphics or screen sets, which I had not realized, which is kind of annoying. But that explains why some of those demos don't look quite as good if you're running on a T1 VDG. So he goes into a bit of, comparison videos here to kind of show you the differences. So anyway, that's a fairly interesting tidbit into some of the differences of the T1 VDG. And then Alan also released a video, which I won't bother playing here because we could discuss it ad nauseum already at this point, but he kind of goes through some of the features on the new XRoar, the 1.0X release. I think it's up to 1.02 now. There's been a few bug fixes, but this is the one that adds in the CoCo 3 support and also adds in the MC10 support. And also the online version does this as well. But Alan goes through a bit of a video here kind of explaining the differences and demonstrating it. One thing he demonstrated, which is really cool, and one thing that the MC10 had that the CoCo did not have, was the modifications to basics. You could do shortcut keys to both type in, statements from basic. You could do print with just hitting, one key plus a certain other key. You'd get print, and you'd get input or go to or whatever. So you could do much faster typing. Got used to it. There were third-party utilities that did this. Platinum Software, I know, did one in the CoCo 1 days, even before the MC10 came out, that did this kind of thing. And the other nice thing about the MC10 is also have the ability to create graphics characters, like the graphical blocks, like the cursor here, for example, is a graphical block, the white you seeing on the screen. And there was key sequences you could hit there to get semi-graphics characters, and another alternate key sequence to change the color. And you could put like print, quote, and then you could start fiddling with these keys and actually punch in the actual graphics directly. So when you listed the program, it would show the graphics. That does not work on the CoCo at all on the current color basic or extended basic. So he demonstrates some of those features for those who are not familiar with the MC10 of some of the nice little things it had that the CoCo did not have. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely check out that video from now on. Next step, I don't normally cover people just finding in a CoCo in an eBay auction or something, but this was a kind of an interesting one. Mike Rojas picked this one up as a CoCo 1, and it's been heavily modified, as you can see. But this reminds me so much of the early 80s, like when our computer club first formed in late 82, here locally in Saskatoon. We had a lot of these, what you call them, eccentric hardware hackers, I guess, that would use everything they could find locally. They didn't like spending money on anything. So, go to Radio Shack and pay, 30 cents for a wire or a cable, forget it. I'm going to use whatever got lying around the house. And that's exactly what this thing is. You can see all kinds of different wiring and like a telephone cable or something. I don't know what that
Wasn't
is.
all this just to add a reset switch?
Maybe. There might have been more to it than that. I'm not even sure, to be honest. But it's just, this reminded me so much of the early 80s ethic of all the hackers, because this is before software got...
Whatever he had handy.
Yeah, well, after like about the mid-80s, it started being more user-oriented. You were getting a lot more people just using computers. They weren't getting into the inner guts and figuring out how to do hacks and stuff like that. But the early 80s, this picture so much reminds me. I would go to club meetings and we'd have like 6 people bringing computers that looked like this. And this is the type of stuff in hacks they were doing. They're drilling holes in the cases and all kinds of stuff. Hacking a Model 3 keyboard into a CoCo 1 by cutting the actual surround of the keyboard area to make it fit. And there was no trying to preserve a retro computer or anything because it wasn't retro back then. It was just like, how can I make this do something interesting to me with whatever I've got lying around the house that's spare? And that's exactly what we see here. So yeah, there's alligator clips. There's a telephone wire that's got a hole drilled through the case to go through, and it's that's definitely the early 80s, late 70s aesthetic, I guess. I thought that was kind of interesting. Next up, Simon Jonassen. I don't know if he's still on the call or not. Let's see. Yeah, there he is.
Still here.
So this is a plasma and dual voice sound demo that you did for the MC10. I think actually about 4 or 5 years ago, but I don't think you'd uploaded the actual image. I think it was part of a demo that was shown at the fest or something. And did you upload the source for it too, or?
I've not uploaded the source yet because I've got a better music player today, so I'm going to plug that in. But I'm taking a take on that because I'm actually kind of really funking your MC10 right now.
Yeah, it's actually that's another thing we'll cover a little bit later. Is you're fiddling around with the timing on the VDG for the screen color sets. But this you've actually made this plasma demo now officially available as a download for MC10 users. It's
a C10 file. I can post the source on it. It's not a problem.
Okay. And for those, I didn't grab the video unfortunately before the Dragon special this morning, so I can't show it. But basically, it's your plasma demo with a 2-voice, 1-bit sound music playing in the background at the same time as the animation is going on, which is visually impressive. And I think we showed it off at CoCo Fest, if I remember. Jason, you might have actually been running it. Was it you or somebody else was running it? I can't remember. There's a few Simon demos. There was like a 3D.
I think Ron was running one at one point.
Was it Ron? Okay.
Yeah, the cube.
Yeah, the spinning 3D cube was another one of Simon's.
What, the one that pissed to Bjork off?
Next up after that, there's the actual download link itself if you want to go grab it directly from the CoCo group. Now, I think you put this in the MC10 group as well, didn't you? Oh, I just stepped up, but yeah.
Yeah. I put it in the MC10 group. Yes, I put it both in the CoCo and the MC10 group.
Okay. So if you're a member of either of those groups and you want to run it either in the emulator or on a real MC10, go grab it and take a look. It's a cool demo.
I mean, I can, if anyone wants a WAV file to load into a real MC10 or something like that, I could just cook it up real quick. It's not a massive problem.
Okay. Next up, Rick Adams here. He's been working on a basic preprocessor. Now, this is similar to, I'm trying to remember what the name of the other one was, because there's another project that's been doing this for about a year and a half. It basically takes sort of structured basic style, like more modern basic style of writing disk basic programs or super extended basic or whatever, and then converts it into, standard Microsoft basic with line numbers and everything else here so that you can, basically you can write the code prettily so it looks nice by modern standards, and it'll convert it to actual code. And you can kind of see an example of it here that Rick posted. So this is like, basically his version that he puts in the parser. He's got, 4 next loops with indents and stuff like that to make it look pretty. He's got a few specific line numbers. And then it'll convert it down to what actually will load properly in the machine, because obviously this won't. It resembles Basic 09 actually to some extent, except using the syntax of disk basic and super extended basic. So I know there's another project, which of the names of the person or the name of the project would come to my head right now, but unfortunately it's escaping me. But Rick's been doing his own implementation of the color coding here on basic statements and rems and stuff like that he did himself as well. So just something he decided to fiddle with. He said he hadn't touched disk basic in decades. He'd always been using assembly or a little bit of OSI and stuff, and he decided to get his feet wet with the regular Microsoft basic. So it's kind of interesting to see him go back in time like that. Next up, the CoCoPi project has had a couple updates uploaded in the last couple weeks. One is Rick Adams' disk extended basic preprocessor available, which now is bundled with the CoCoPi if you download the image. And of course, the new XRoar 1.02, which is basically the CoCo 3 and the MC10 support added, and has had a couple of bug fixes along the way. There was a bug in the 6803 condition code flags, the color thing on the VDG that Allen Huffman discovered, so that's all been fixed. Now, I'm not sure what's new in MAME 0.238. I don't know if anybody here on the panel knows, but that's now included as well, but I'm not sure what has changed on that one. Does anybody know? Anybody fiddled with MAME 238?
Not yet.
Yeah. Ron might know, but I think he's on the phone, so. But maybe I'll bring him in a little bit later if he has time. I don't know if he's tried that or not.
Okay, what?
I was wondering, have you had a chance to try the MAME 238 update and what's new on it? I know it's included in the Cocoa Pie, but I'm not sure what changed.
I'm not sure what changed either. I did upload it, but I haven't messed with it much.
Okay.
It's XRoar stuff.
Well, XRoar is a separate package, and it looks like both MAME and XRoar got updates on this latest Cocoa Pie, so I'm not sure. I know what's new in XRoar. I just don't know what's new in
Yeah,
MAME.
I don't either. Yeah, I upload stuff, and half the time some of it's emulators or stuff that I don't particularly use, but I got the latest of it all.
Yeah. Like I know sometimes they add new hardware support for third-party cards and stuff, and then other times it's just bug fixes or something, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe the next time if Ron Klein catches this, he can let us know.
Yeah, he would be the one to talk to. He's really sharp.
Next up, Color Computer Programming, which is a YouTube channel. Before he keeps doing little basic tutorials. So he did 4 this week. I'm not going to play them this time around, but he did what he called a Color Computer Screensaver, which is basically just it draws some lines or boxes and has this little smiley face that jumps around the screen. It's just kind of a silly program to run in the background if you're not using your Coco for much, just to prevent burn-in on a CRT, which isn't really a problem with LCD monitors these days, but I think most of us have now. And he does extended basic factor any numbers, so it kind of goes through figuring out factorials, solving quadratic equations, and then non-repeating random numbers using subscript arrays to kind of keep track of which ones you've already done before, rather than just completely random, which can repeat numbers over and over again. So kind of his tutorial style that he does and has been doing for a while. But he's been cranking out a good 3 to 5 videos a week here, so he's actually getting a lot of good use out of the Coco emulator. So. Next up, this person here is getting into the MC10 and hoping to get it running again, has one, and posted about this on the Vintage Computing channel on Reddit. And Jim Gerrie actually posted the link to this in the MC10 group, and he's actually trying to get people to upvote it so that it shows up higher on the Reddit thing so that people can find out about the MC10 because it's a fairly obscure computer that's not well known. And I see he's up to 60 upvotes right now, so hopefully it'll get some attention to the MC10 that doesn't normally get gotten, and especially with all the new games we've showed off from Japan that came out the last few weeks here. There's definitely a little bit more interest in it here too. So I'm hoping that that might help fuel the flames even higher yet. So if you have an MC10 or interested in the MC10, please go upvote that on Reddit. You can get the link from our news notes on our Discord. And then speaking of Jim Gerrie again here, he of course had to crank out another game. So this year he's I didn't quite put this under the game news. I mean, it is a game. It's basically a version of the game Free Cell, which we've shown on the show before because he's actually had it before. But here he was using it to test XRoar, and this is the compiled version of the game. So this is running through the MC10 based compiler that we had the author of the compiler on the MC10 special recently. And this is actually the game that they discovered a bug in Karen's implementation of the 6803 processor. The condition code flags on the 6803, there's a certain type of instruction that actually does it a little bit differently than the 689 on the CoCo was. Karen did not know that, so we originally implemented it like the 609 would. And actually this game here is the one that would screw up and not function properly. And between the two of them, they figured out what had happened. So this is kind of showing it fixed. And it's a 16-minute video of playing Free Cell, which I'm not going to show, but there's a little bit of interesting history as to why he did this particular video here to show that it had been fixed. And this, I might as well let Simon speak on this one, because this is playing around with the color set option on the VDG. You'll notice you're getting vertical stripes of the orange, red, and the green palette going across. So this is doing it multiple times per character row. And Simon, it sounds like you still have some more stuff you want to do with this as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at one of the later ones, I'm actually emulating pretty much SG12.
Okay, was that in the comments you had about that?
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty much SG12. And it's just mode shifts. I need to figure it out completely, but you can actually, by doing mode shifts, I need to push the graphics here into the border so you can't see it. But you can pretty much do SG12 without a SAM.
Oh, okay. So what you're doing there is that you're changing it to a mode that only has like 2 scan lines or 1 scan line per row, and then switching it right back again. So it's fooling the VDG into only displaying that semi-graphics 4 mode 4 scan line, and then you can change like color sets, etc. Oh, okay, I get what you're doing here then. That's pretty cool, actually, because right now, because the regular semi-graphics above 6 on the VDG required the SAM as a paired chip to it for it to work, like on the CoCo. The MC10 normally does not support semi-graphics above 6 at all, and you're kind of faking it here by fooling it into running like P mode 2 or P mode 4 or something like that, and then bouncing back.
Yeah, I think it's probably P mode 2 or something like that.
Yeah, P mode 4 wouldn't make much sense because there's not enough RAM to actually hold the whole screen so it reps back.
Actually, I did P mode 4. I did P mode 4 on this, and I can actually get pretty much an SG24. But the problem is you've only got 4K of screen, so half of it's going to repeat at the bottom. So okay, we'll take the common denominator.
Yeah, so if you're doing semi-graphics 12, you're doing the equivalent of about a 3K screen, which does fit in the 4K. And exactly. one limitation of the MC10, of course, is that unless you rewire it and resolder and stuff there, the 4K RAM that's on board is the only thing you can use for graphics RAM. Even if you add a 16K module pack or one of the newer, higher up ones, you can't put the graphics screen into that RAM. It has to be on the original 4K on the motherboard.
Yeah, and you can't flip screens, and you're pretty much you're dead in the water. You've got no H-Sync, no V-Sync, nothing.
Yeah, I mean V-Sync you can kind of fake with the built-in hardware timers if you have the person tap keys until they move it into the board or switching the color set like John Linville did on some of his MC10 games.
Yeah, well,
and then you can tell the timer to fire off at that time, so you kind of have a fake V-Sync. But yeah,
this is what this is based around, but this is a fake H-Sync and a fake V-Sync at the same time.
Okay.
So yeah, I thought, someone showed my plasma demo, and I thought, yeah, I'll give the little bugger some attention.
Okay. Now, out of curiosity, how much CPU time do you have left doing this? Because I mean, if you're firing off the H-Sync here, or the fake H-Sync, that's going to be burning quite a few CPU cycles, is it not?
Yeah, but I mean, potentially you could do like half a screen. You could do like half a screen of graphics and something at the bottom. And a lot of instructions are a lot faster on the 6803 than they are on the 6809.
Okay. So you got a little bit more time to play with in a 6809 on the same.
You've also got the timer.
Yeah, like a CoCo 3 does, a programmable timer.
Yeah. So what did Tandy leave out?
Okay, so that makes sense. If you did like a semi-graphics 12 thing where you could, use a lot of CPU time, so like you said, drawing the top half of the screen to draw a picture for an adventure game or something, and then, kick it off and just run regular text on the bottom half, you could have a text adventure game with graphics with 9 or 10 colors, fairly high res, like, 64 by, I don't know, 48 or something like that, or whatever you wanted, depending on how much of the screen you use. And then mix the text after that with some CPU time for the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now it's pie in the sky. It's an experiment. But I was thinking, no, this little machine needs some more love.
Yeah, and I haven't seen anybody actually twist the VDG to fake a semi-graphics before on the MC10, so that's an interesting technique. I hadn't really thought about that. Switching it to a P mode, which actually does use less lines, as it's counting down, going through the screen without having a SAM. So that's cool. Yeah, I look forward to see where you take this, and it might inspire some other MC10 machine language programmers like Greg Dion or somebody to maybe come up with a game that actually uses this and actually gives you like a high res full color game on the MC10 rather than the 4 colors.
Oh, let the madness prevail.
Next up, this is a sequel to a video we demonstrated last week. So a guy named Chris Hawkins who put up basically, this is one where his wife actually bought him a Dragon 32 system on eBay as a present. Most of us do not have spouses like that would actually support our hobbies like this and actually encourage it. So last week he unboxed the whole thing and he basically said, yeah, here's a bunch of magazines, here's the manuals, here's a bunch of tapes. And then he kind of went through the hardware side of things. So here he actually goes into a bit more detail. So this time he goes through the magazines in specific and he goes through the cassettes. And he's kind of setting aside ones he wants to do a third video. He's actually going to try playing some of them. So we'll look forward to that here. But yeah, this has a lot of the original artwork and stuff. Like, if you watched the Dragon meetup that we had before the show today officially, we saw some cassettes that were on some of the tables that were being sold, and also part of the trivia question with some of the artwork and stuff that they had for the Dragon games. And you get to see quite a few on here as well. So that was kind of interesting. And he's got a third video. He's actually going to be playing some of the games. He's actually asking for some suggestions of maybe some games to play out of the ones he got with this bundle. Next up here, we mentioned this during the Dragon meetup. Basically, John Whitworth, the guy that did the Super Sprite FM Plus board, he also was showing that other Sprite board that was done back in 83, 84 that we're not sure if it actually got commercially sold, but it definitely was prototype because they actually got one from the original author that had created the board. And they also had the extensions to BASIC that actually supported some of the Sprite functionality in the new graphics modes. And what he's done here is he's actually taken the original documentation and redone it in Word for that original 1983-84 Sprite board for the Dragon. And it's got all the extensions for BASIC that are mentioned on it, and also some pokes and stuff, like how it's connected to the cartridge port, what pins line up to what on the card. So it's a good reference point. And if anybody duplicates that board, which has been done now by John and a few others, I think, this will actually explain how to use the extended ROM function that they put in and patch in the BASIC to use this kind of stuff. So it's a nice little Word doc you can grab there too. Hopefully we'll get some more demonstration and talk out of that tomorrow if we can get a hold of John. I know we saw John quite a bit during the live Dragon stream, but I don't think we really got a chance to talk to him unless you guys got to talk to him before I got onto the stream about half an hour later after the start. But I'd love to talk to him about this and the difference between this board and the Super Sprite FM Plus board. And then the last one here, this is another guy we've also covered on the show before a few months back. It's called Arctic Retro, and I think he's in Norway or something like that. He's up fairly north there, Canada level winters and stuff. But he got a Dragon 32 bundle as well, and he kind of goes through that as well too. He actually disassembles the Dragon, kind of goes through the pieces, replace some caps on it. It did boot up fine at the beginning, except the video was a little bit shaky and stuff, so he showed you how to twist and turn the ARF modulator and stuff to get a cleaner signal. And he does some testing of some games and stuff on it as well. But he seems pretty happy. Look, it seems to be working pretty good. And it was actually, he was mentioning it was dusty and stuff. It's actually one of the cleaner motherboards I've ever seen for, something that's been sitting in somebody's shed or something for months or years or whatever. But it shows the hardiness of the machines that you can get something on eBay that's, 40 years old and just plug it in, it works, which is what he did. He did replace a few things that were a little bit snaky, but it generally did work. And that's it for the news for today, except for whatever happens at the Dragon meetup, maybe later today and maybe tomorrow.
Okay. Let's see. Project updates next.
Yep, project updates and acquisitions for anybody that has those. Obviously, Simon's talked about his little MC10 project.
I have an acquisition.
Okay, shoot.
I have an acquisition. You were talking about John a moment ago. So I'm going to show you the original. That's the original board.
Yeah, when it was still called the Dragon MSX2 Plus. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll show the other side of the board. Okay, so he was kind enough to send me the new one.
So this is the official release he's selling then?
Yep.
Is there major differences from what you can tell, or is it?
Yeah. I don't know if my camera will focus this, but if you look at the, can you see where the spark plug is?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see the tiny two little chippies. Yeah, and take the other one. Completely
different.
Okay. Yeah.
Completely different. And the video circuitry down the bottom, and also a lot of headers and stuff like that. So the board is completely reworked. So I'm looking forward to having fun with this one.
Yeah, they were demonstrating it at the show there, so we got to see some of its features in action. I know Paris Surratt's been writing a ton of stuff.
Yeah, and Paris
Para, I should
Surratt, he actually done a sample player.
Yeah.
Sample player using the little tiny chip on board there. Well, he could thank me for that.
Yeah, and of course he's been backporting some of the AGD stuff to use the sprite functions and stuff too, as well as the sound player stuff. So yeah, that's one nice thing about this board, and we mentioned it last week too, is that it actually comes with a fair bit of software support right off the bat. A lot of time we get this new hardware, and then we're waiting for some software guy to come along and use it, which has happened like a lot of the sound cards. So that's why we haven't seen a lot. But this seems to be coming as a complete package pretty well at the gate, and I think that will really help itself.
That's why John sent me the new one, because I've got a lot of stuff laying about, but some of it just doesn't work on the prototype.
Okay.
So all I have to do is move the chips from the prototype board to this one and say, "Hey, Bob's your uncle."
Okay, cool. I look forward to see what you came out with for that too. Now that Para and a few others are starting to really delve into it, I know some people here have gotten it. I think Brian Weezer's got one of them here in North America. I know there's a few North American orders that came in through, and a few of them are on the CoCoTALK panels, at least regularly. So I'm really hoping one of them will be able to come on the show at some point and actually demo it live and kind of give us their impressions of the board, and if someone happen to be software authors too, see what they can do with it. I don't know, has anybody on the panel here besides Simon got one of these?
Nope.
But I know John had sold out his first batch of them already too. So I know there was some talk about some of the chips had really gone up in price. He wasn't sure if he's going to do another run or not. So I think he's been kind of convinced to. His power supply board, though, as far as I know, he sold out of that one too, and for the Dragon, and that one he's not planning on going back to redo unless sort of a huge influx of interest in it.
He's not actually doing the power board as well. He'd done a few of the USB power boards, but he stopped doing that as well.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where he stopped, because it sounded like there's at least a little bit of a demand for it. Maybe he has to get a certain amount of orders before it's worthwhile. I'm not sure. Anybody else on the panel with any project updates or acquisitions?
Yeah, a little bit. I've been trolling JLC to see what shows up, and they came up with some of those WizNet network chips.
Okay.
So I will, in fact, have a dozen of these network cards pretty soon for people to play with.
Oh,
and
cool.
maybe the big crunch is over. I mean, this is suspiciously leftover numbers, like 314 parts, which means, they got 5,000, but they already had 4,000 of them, So we're living off the scraps, but there are scraps starting to show back up, and that's a good thing. So
yeah.
So
that's been a huge problem for everybody in hardware the last, how many months is it now?
So how would you use that? Like, would that go in my multi-pack and I'd use NetMate with it, or what?
Yeah, it fits in a multi-pack. Right now I've got some demo software in OS 9.
Yeah, you're showing some of it at the fest here. I think even like your little basic 09 web browser, right?
Exactly. It doesn't take a lot of driving to drive it. We basically just need ways to deal with I've got 2K of data that's not in RAM. Do I need to put it in RAM, or can I process it direct to screen, or what, to most efficiently use our little CoCo bus? So it doesn't really need a driver. It needs memory management. But until I get some in people's hands, it's kind of the cart and the horse. You got to have one or the other.
Yeah, we were just talking about that with like the Super Sprite board. One advantage it has is that people have gotten software out for it almost immediately. So they were
exactly. Well, and he had the hardware out, so I had neither one. So now at least we'll have some hardware. So we'll see where that leads. 3D printers printing away as we speak, so I'll have cases.
Cool. Do you have an expected ship date for the people that have expressed interest in possibly fiddling with them on the software level?
Within, like, by next CoCo Fest, I should have them in my hands. or by next CoCoTALK. I mean, next week I should have them in my hands, because that's the speed that JLC goes. They run out of parts quick because they use them up right away. So it's my advantage.
Cool. Now this is the board that also has a 16550 serial port on it as well, or is this just the network card version?
So this one's just the network card, and it's starting to look pretty shaky. I've noticed several vendors have just dropped the 550 totally.
Oh, okay.
So I'm starting to think maybe in place of the serial port, what I should just do is use that board space for a ROM, and then you could put DriveWire on this pack.
Built into the card. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And just, okay, here's my network, here's my DriveWire. I need a Cat5 cable and I'm done. So fate may have forced me into a new configuration here. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I need to get some of them out there and get people to writing network stuff, because we need, we need a DNS service and all kinds of nifty things. And I can't write all this crap. I'm having enough trouble with HTML tables and
handling all the tags and stuff. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
Right. Well, and like, okay, so here's the kind of problem. Tables, you got to have the width of each column for the length of the table. But because the WizNet doesn't have a real FIFO buffer, as you go through figuring out the width of each item in each column, you might scroll past the end of the buffer. So now you can't just back up again because you've
lost
wrapped around to the start of the buffer. And that's why I said you need a memory manager, not a driver. So anyway, it's fun. We're moving.
I'm glad you got a hold of the chips there, because that's been the bane of every single hard developer I know these days. So
it's been 7 months of nothing. So I think maybe we're starting for things to show up at the hobbyist level. Like, JLC PCB is definitely hobbyist level.
Especially this close to Christmas, because you figure all the big companies are stealing all the chips for
they
catching
got
up
theirs.
on toys and crap.
Right. Of course, that may be why they were 314, because someone ordered an even. They didn't order quite the even 10,000 or something. But hey, I'll take it.
All the bigger manufacturer stuff is sitting on boats.
Right.
They've already finished making it, shipped it. It's all sitting on boats now.
Yeah, well, I heard on the news, like, I don't know how accurate this is, but it sounded like the bottlenecks of all the boats, floating offshore, waiting to get into shipping ports and getting enough drivers stuff is alleviated a little bit. Is that true? I haven't really followed it.
It's starting to happen, but
slowly.
Starting to happen, and fixed could be a ways apart.
Okay, well, that's good. So anybody who's got the programming chops to handle writing software specifically for brand new hardware, get in contact with Rick. How should they get a hold of you? You got an email address or something they should contact you at?
Rick at computerconnect.com, where there's only one N in Connect. I should have just put another N in there, but
it's the tradition of your old company, I guess. So.
Exactly. So, that'll be cool. I should come up with a name for it. Like in video, the code name for we don't have any software yet is the Founders Edition. So
I like that.
the CoCo Founders Edition.
This is pre-alpha, basically.
Right. Hey, well, proving the hardware works pretty good. There is a CoCo in the world it doesn't work with, and that's R. Alan Murphy's CoCo.
It doesn't work at all?
It scrambles.
Chess 2 that don't work.
So anything in Pasadena, Texas. That's so that's a little disturbing. But then it's been on a half a dozen other CoCos with no problem. So I have no idea.
Are these CoCo 3s or CoCo 1s and 2s?
One of each, I think. CoCo 3 and a CoCo 2, if I remember right. I've tried it with my CoCo 2 T1. It works fine. So does my CoCo 3.
I wonder what the issue is then.
I've got CoCo 3s with two different kinds of gimmies and another CoCo 2. And it's really, really a mystery. So anyway, I'm happy to get more parts so I can get more out in the field and make sure,
Is it possible because of all the chip supply shortage and stuff that you just got a slightly bummed chip and that's happened to be what he's got? Or if he takes that exact same card as
we swapped a card, and I swapped out a part with him and it didn't help. So we're not really sure. Is it some,
But if you take that exact card he's got, it runs fine on your machine.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm having him ship it to me as well. I'll try it on mine just to see if I get same results as Rick or same results as Alan.
Right. Phase of the moon. What's going on? We'd like to know. Of course, I did. The original version of this card was hard-coded gates for address decoding and so forth, and it didn't quite work. So I went with a gal so I could just change the timing with programming. And that's been kind of a blessing because I've been able to fudge things backwards and forwards and sideways and kind of establish the limits of how early to how late you can do things. So it's been a nice experiment, but his just doesn't work. On the other hand, everyone else's, I'm right down the center of the lane for everyone else's timing because I've messed with this so much.
Also looks like, was that you, Mark, that posted the link to Rick's website?
That was.
Oh, thank you.
And does that have a direct click on his email address there too for those who want to?
I think it is. It's Rick at computerconnect.com.
Rick at that, yeah. And there should be a link there, but geez, I haven't figured it out.
Yeah, there's a contact form where you can put in your email and a message. So.
Okay, so any of you are interested in helping on the software side of things and also to test to see if you've got one of the oddball CoCos that doesn't work, I guess.
Exactly.
Contact Rick, so.
We'll have to come up with a free prize for the Broken CoCo contest.
Or we can get Pedro just joined in Rocky Hill in the chat there and says, hello, Marco. He's actually the guy who's been making the CoCo 3 new motherboards to replace. So maybe he can make it sure that you get one that does work and we'll just swap the motherboard out and fix your CoCo instead.
That'll be the acid test. Does it work on the Rocky Hill board? If it does, it's good.
Yeah, and he's got CoCo 1 or CoCo 2 and CoCo 3 boards now. So, and the new salt chips and everything else too. So, or pepperize, I guess he's calling it. Cool. Anybody else any project updates or acquisitions? Nick, how's your game coming along?
It's coming along. There's a fair bit of work going on, but nothing really ready to show or talk about.
But work is progressing.
You're
not so distracted polishing your Ferraris that you're actually still working on the game, I guess.
That's right. That's right. I gotta split the time between programming and polishing.
You figure with your wealth of riches from selling CoCo games here, you should be able to hire somebody to polish the Ferraris.
No one's stupid enough.
Okay.
Oh, Rick, Pedro says, sounds like a challenge. He's in for testing your boards on his hardware. So. Anybody else? I know I'm helping a person with a project, but until they want to officially announce things in detail, I'm not going to say anything about it. Some of you already know, but we'll leave it at that for now.
Does it have to do with a toaster or anything?
No.
No.
I'm not a hardware guy, so I couldn't tell you. I just burn toast. I can't handle a toaster properly.
That's why you need a CoCo powered one.
If I have to start filling with power, it's going to be dead machine time. So I'll stick with my software. I guess, Mark Mosley, you've actually got a bit of a project update that's in progress that you mentioned before the show. Has to do with floppies.
Yeah, I was looking through some of my old floppies and seeing what's on it and checking to see if it's, if they're up on the archive, and if not, then I'll publish them up on the archive.
Yeah, and that's a project actually I was working on a year or two ago that I've got to get back into because I had found some stuff that is not on the archive. I did put a couple up recently because actually I'd found the manual pages for them, so I actually found the old discs too. But there's dozens of other discs I have not gone through yet. So
I got 6 containers of this to go through. Most of it is OS 9.
Oh, now you got my interest.
I mean, 4 out of 6 of those is all OS 9 based. But there's
like you mentioned, you might have some of the early text files, like the early reactions when the CoCo 3 was announced. I know I have some of those myself. I've got to find those too because I don't see them anywhere else. And it's kind of interesting to see what people thought of the CoCo 3 when it was first announced, literally days after, before they even got to see the machine. Because it was announced, of course, at a big, Tandy shindig July 31st, it was in 1986. And then CompuServe and Delphi had immediate reaction from people reading the press releases without seeing the machines themselves, within days of that. And it'd be interesting to see that just for archival history purposes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be going through that and seeing what I did find. I was telling you about Big Term. It's actually on my H1 image that comes with EOU.
Okay, so I just haven't ran it to see what exactly it is. There's a lot of stuff in there I haven't looked at because it was put in there by Roger Taylor and Bill Noble and a few others.
Yeah, so it's in the terminals section on the H1 image.
Cool.
So,
and I'll try to get caught up in mine in the next month or two when I've got a little bit more free time, but I've got multiple projects on the go too, so I'll just have to keep splitting time. I also got to start updating the webpage again. Anybody else with any updates or acquisitions?
I was going to have an acquisition, but American Post decided not to send it down under, send it back to Jason. I was getting one of his Aussie products.
Which one? He's got a whole catalog of those.
He sent it all out. He posted. He did all the right stuff. Took my money. And
they took my money too. And I got this pretty pink sticker.
It came back.
And so we're gonna have to figure out we're gonna do that, but that does bring it up. So unfortunately, I'm ironically not going to be accepting orders for Australia right now.
No.
Because I can't get it
we
there.
We kind of talked about this a bit in the pre-show here, but basically what happened is that there's something to do with COVID. They're not letting product ship, or what happened?
There's that new virus apparently, but I didn't think that's actually stopped anything as yet. So soon.
Well, I know it stopped flights from Africa, like Canada's stopped them, the UK stopped them. But what does Australia and the United States have to do with that?
But did the Post in the US mix up Africa and Australia maybe?
No, they didn't. I wasn't aware of this, but I went and looked into it, and there actually is a stoppage of, how did they put it here? The mail service suspended to Australia, and that's including first class, air mail, priority mail, pretty much everything that the U.S. Postal Service, and they do say it's due to COVID-19. So it didn't go any further from here. It went to Chicago, sat in Chicago, and came back to me, because Chicago is usually where it would dispatch from. And
well, why don't you just send it to Curtis and let him send it to Australia?
That's an idea.
Crazier things may have happened. I got to figure out how to get this to Nick, but and of course they put a nice big dent in the back of the box too. The wonderful folks at USPS, but I'm kind of disappointed with PayPal and Pitney Bowes that they even let me print the label if it wasn't going to go anywhere. So now I have to go through something to get the label refunded, and it's not really all that clear how to do it. I mean, there's a website on the pink sticker here that says to go to, but it says, if you did it through PayPal or this, that, and the other thing, you have to follow this, but it doesn't tell me what that is. It's like, okay, that's a nice, so it's a lot of jargon, and unfortunate, so it's quite frustrating. But yeah, this arrived today, so yippee.
Considering that you paid for freight to Australia and it didn't get sent, you effectively didn't get the product you paid for.
Right. So, it does say to request postage refund, go to USPS.com, blah, 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 blah. So I can do that. But it's just, and when I went and read that particular document, it says if I use PayPal, I have to do something else, but I don't understand their verbiage, their jargon at this point, but I'll have to look into it more. I've contacted PayPal, what do I do? So
we have a comment from Jeremy Landry in the chat. He said Australia has had postal issues to the U.S. for a bit now. A friend of mine in New Zealand said the same thing just a couple of weeks ago. COVID sticker.
Yeah, New Zealand is another one of those countries that has service suspended. Wasn't aware that I hadn't shipped anything to Australia for a while, and so New Zealand is also you can't even. I have it set. You can't even have anything shipped to New Zealand or Australia right now, and any of the other countries that are on the list right now. But that was a big surprise to me. So ironically, my Australian-inspired products can't go to Australia right now unless we want to use a different service that's going to be very expensive. I was looking to send that same package. UPS was going to be like
I know
I
of a
think
real
like
cheap
$80 or
one you could
$90.
use, Jason. I know of a real cheap one you could use. Unfortunately, it's not the quickest one, and that's put it in a bottle, put a cork in it, throw it in the ocean, and it'll wash up eventually.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, maybe in 30 years you'll get it.
100 years, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but there's not a lot I can do about it right now. I mean, like I said, I think even like DHL was going to be like $90, and U.S. Postal Service is right. I mean, that box to Australia is like a little over $28 just in postage. So if there anything else is going to be even more, and it is, some of them are well over 100 US. So,
well, if you can get a refund on the postage at least, and step one.
Yeah, step one, and then we'll figure out.
Then you just have to send Nick a parts list and instructions to make his own and just do it that way.
I mean, I could just send it. Maybe I can send it. Yeah. Maybe I could just send it in envelopes, or I like I said, this just happened today. I'm sure there's a solution there somewhere that's not going to cost an arm and a leg, but we'll just have to. I still have to do my homework, but as of now, as of a few hours ago, no more orders from Australia or New Zealand or a couple other places right now until the United States Postal Service decides they're going to not send the mail back.
Jason, as someone said, if you can't get it through Canada, try to get it through Europe. Okay?
And that's we could try that. I'm going to have to look into see if there's maybe like a remailing service I could use or something like that.
Send it to me. I'll send it on to Nick. Okay.
Okay. Well,
I'll pay. No, I will pay.
Oh, no, I never saw it, man.
No, seriously.
It never arrived.
Seriously, I'll pay the difference. Okay.
Okay. I'll get a hold of you offline about that.
Get your refund first, and then we'll worry about the rest. Yeah, I mean,
absolutely. Yeah,
we don't want to have to eat $30 here for a non-shipped item. So
yeah.
Yeah, we'll make it right. We'll figure it out one way or another. We'll get it there somehow.
That's good you brought that up though, because I mean, for people that do ship internationally, that's something I didn't even know was happening. So that's.
And with this new virus going about now, who knows? Things may get worse again. So it might be a time to don't send anything to Australia.
Either that or pack it in Vegemite, because that'll kill anything. So.
I couldn't even get out of Chicago, so who knows?
Oh, well.
All right. If you want a little bit more happier news, I got something I could update.
Sure.
That'd be great.
I actually wrote my first BASIC program in 30 years, and my first BASIC program on the CoCo. For the
so what's it like using a real BASIC now?
Terrible. Because I do poke 742,0, and I've still got a cursor on the screen.
Yeah, we don't do that Atari Commodore poke it to get anything useful done, basic.
Yeah. But here, let me share my screen, and I'll show you what I actually programmed.
It's a Megabug Infinite Lives program, isn't it?
No.
10, print hello. 20, go to 10.
Can you see my screen?
No.
So far.
Let's see here. Share screen. Share. Now can you see my screen? All green?
Yep. CoCoTALK Game On Challenge live. We'll be playing 3D Space Wars.
Yep.
Etc.
Basically, I noticed that a lot of people weren't joining until like 3 to 5 minutes after I'd started, because they get the notification and they go and get ready and such and then come on. So I needed a way to let people know that, hey, it's starting. And so I made a
5-minute warning.
A countdown.
A countdown clock?
Card. Yeah, it's a countdown card for the for starting the show.
So you'll put this on the stream 5 minutes before the stream actually starts, so people have time to get their
right. It actually started. Yeah, it actually was first used this past week.
I didn't catch the beginning of your stream here, so I missed that.
Does it sing a song at the end?
No. Since I'm partially deaf and fully tone deaf, I don't do much with music because it's been not allowed by the Geneva Convention for Cruel and Unusual Punishment.
You could hook up a cassette player and hit play, and then motor on and have it play.
Yeah, audio on. Except then if you played anything commercial, it'd get yanked off YouTube. So
yeah, I don't even have a cassette player.
What?
You'd have to get something from the YouTube audio library then.
But I made this, and it is my crowning achievement in programming for the last 30 years.
Can you hit break and show us the code?
Actually, this is the screen from this past week's show.
Oh, so you're not
this is just recording. Yeah.
If you'd like to see the show, I can actually do that. Let's see.
This is a recording.
It looks like your timer is actually pretty accurate too, which is cool.
Yeah, that's rather interesting because I did notice that there are differences between XRoar and VCC. I had them both count down, and they were like about a second and a half off at the beginning. And by the time it got down to 0, they were about 12 to 14 seconds different. I did not actually look at a clock to see which one was closer to being correct, but they were about 14 seconds off from each other. And also, VCC does not blink.
Just out of curiosity, are you doing this with hard-coded loops? Like I know on the CoCo 1 that used to be like the basic manual said do a 4-next loop for t equals 1 to 460. That would be roughly a second. But there's also, you can use the timer function, which actually links into the VSync, which should be more accurate. You just have to figure out the math.
The timer is what I actually used.
Okay, so the emulators are going that far off. That means one of them has a bug, I would say.
Yeah, here I'll actually load it up and you can see it.
Oh, there's a mega bug.
Yeah. Go to RGB, file, cassette, insert disk.
Oh, and welcome David Ladd to the panel. I just noticed you snuck in. How long have you been there?
Oh, I've been here for a while, sir.
Really? Didn't you see his face flash on when somebody mentioned
floppies?
He goes, what?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That woke him up.
I was just going to ask if that's what happened. It summoned him.
Yep, that's when things sprung to life.
Yeah, he gets an alert on his phone anytime we mention floppies.
Or he must have wrote a basic program so that anytime the word comes on, it wakes him up.
This is the main game loop on it, which it just goes subs to a bunch of routines for that I actually do things.
We're not seeing that screen.
Yeah, we're not. I can see that he's sharing it, but it's not sharing across. Do you have to change the scene?
No, I need to change that to that, and then you have to highlight my actual camera.
There it is.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, it's backwards to me, but to them.
Oh, wow. It's
shows
commented and everything. I never do that in basic programs. But...
Yeah. Well, it's to remind me because, I mean, I haven't programmed in BASIC since the very early 80s. I went quickly to Action and 6502 assembly. Please don't shoot me.
Yeah.
No, if you're having to program 6502 assembly, you're suffering enough already as it is. You don't need anything.
Well, you're starting at the very basics in 6502 and working your way up to basic.
And this is the setup. The time interval for the timer. Time does 60 counts
60 ticks per second.
And
we even got auto centering. Look at that.
Yeah, and the amount of minutes to count down, and it actually starts off at a little bit slower because when I was debugging, I didn't want to sit here for 5 minutes every time.
So where does the parentheses start?
On the left, and they end on the right. And let's see here. Yep, let's.
You could do a width 40 to list it. You might be able to fit more of it on the screen too.
Yeah, there's the first half. Let's see if it'll. Yep.
Is this what they used to do before GitHub?
Yep. But yeah, I used the attributes to make the changes, and the blink attribute works in XRoar, but does not work in VCC.
That's definitely a bug then, because that should be working.
Yep.
It's based on the give me IRQ timer. So,
from what I understand, I was discussing it with David Ladd, and he said that it's been a long-standing bug in VCC that has still not been fixed. All right, and then this is the meat and potatoes of everything. Where it goes through, and then while it's running, you can use F, S, and D to make it fast, make it slow, or make it default.
So where did you find the code to copy from?
I didn't.
That's what I do.
I actually do know how to program, just not well.
I would look in the back of the manual and take a block of it, throw it on there.
Yeah, I basically debugged it into existence, for those that are familiar with the term.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started with a small program to understand how the timer works and the timing of it and things like that, and then went from there. And then
try to break it.
Then made a new program that used that as that screen right there. And unfortunately, this is actually my second revision of the program, because the first revision was all done and nice and neat and worked great. And then I didn't realize it, but by default, XRoar does not write to the disk.
yes, that is something I actually questioned Karen about, and he said, well, he did that so he wouldn't accidentally overwrite something he didn't want to overwrite, so he made that the default. But that's just totally backwards to me. I would have a defaulting writing. I would rather not lose.
Yeah,
than
right.
lose.
So basically, what I did was I made the default in the XRoar config to be to write back.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, I don't know why he thinks that's actually better to not default to writing it out.
Well, for
maybe his own
most-
personal workful that works better, but most
He's
people
in
I
a
know
different
that's
country.
It's a Linux thing. It's a Linux thing.
Oh, is it?
Well, the default should be to a safe, non-destructive safe, which I can understand that.
Or even better yet, just bring up a menu. Would you like to really save this, or do you want to just save it to a temporary or something along the lines? You know
that
what's
would've
going
been
on.
Yeah, that would have been a good choice. But yeah, this is the timing and how it goes through, like MIRs, minutes remaining, SARs, seconds remaining, and then it goes through the timer, waits another second, then goes through.
Now, one thing I'll point out, I don't know if this is related to why the timing's going so far off between the emulators. It might just be the emulator itself. But it is possible that you might be missing a timer tick every once in a while just from all the basic statements running between the checks. So I was wondering, if you run this in double speed, does it make them run more equally then?
Yeah, I have not tried that. I considered that, but I figured all it's doing is going from here down to here before it goes and checks the timer ticks again. And there's no way that should take anywhere near a second for it to run.
Yeah, it shouldn't, but stuff like divide, because these are floating point numbers, these aren't integers.
Right.
A floating point divide, like RMT divided by 60, and then 9 times 60 can take a bit of time, and maybe it's just happening to catch it.
Yeah,
Every once in a while, I might catch it halfway through a timer tick, and maybe it skips like 1.5.
Yeah, because I also compared timer value at the beginning and end, and it was the correct amount at the end.
Oh, it is? Okay. Okay.
So
Then never mind what I just said.
Yeah, because I mean that was one of my first
All right, we
my
weren't
first
listening, Curtis.
concerns.
I was just going to say,
about
Nick's going to
running-
always say that.
Yeah, because that was one of my first concerns, and I was like, no. The
So
timer is,
by next Coco Fest, you'll have a real-time clock software all made up.
it's close enough. I'm not building a Stradivarius here. And then once it goes through and does the countdown,
Every
goes
time,
and shows.
every time I see exclamation marks, it makes me nervous.
An exclamation mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bug in the Coco 3 Super Extended Basic. The microwave did that if it hits a token it doesn't recognize, so you had some extended DOS, like ADOS or something that added new keywords to Basic, it'll print an exclamation mark instead of the token and then freeze dead.
Yes.
Hit reset to get out of it. So it locks up the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm only using DECB. I'm not that advanced. So,
Yeah,
but
it's a bad bug in the Coco 3 ROM, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that's the end of it, and then returns back to and just says okay.
Good job, man.
I have to say, I think it's kind of cool that both you and Ken actually do your intro screens for your segments using real Coco basic programming. That's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, well, I felt that the show is about the Coco, so the Coco should be used as much as possible. I mean, obviously, for like some video segments and such, you're not going to be able to use it, but for what you can, you should.
Yeah, I guess we have to thank Nick Marotta too, because he's the one who kind of started that tradition. And Ken, I know you've modified yours a bit from Nick's originals, but
Yes, because what I want to eventually do is have it do the countdown, and at the end of the countdown, it shows me doing the directory of the disk and then loading the game that actually plays.
so it's kind of instructions on how to actually load it and get it running too. Then at the same time,
Right.
especially for people that are not familiar with the Coco, that don't know the difference between a load and a load M, for example.
Yeah, because a little over a year ago, I was truffling through this stuff because I'd never used a Coco before, and I didn't know about the load M command or the exec command, or the fact that the machine doesn't boot a disk when you first turn it on.
Yep. Yeah, me coming from the Apple II Plus at school when I first got the Coco, same thing. Like you're used to PR number 6 to manually reboot a disk or just turn it on and automatically tries to boot off the disk. And of course, that doesn't do anything unless you buy a special ROM.
Yeah, the Atari also boots straight from the disk drive when you first turn it on, also. So.
And the C64 will start booting a day or two later when it finally reads the drive because they're slow.
But yeah, and then 3 weeks later, it'll be fully loaded.
Yep.
Come on, you can cut that down to like a week.
The
with a
Atari
fast
and
load.
Coco people can get along just fine. We both hate the Commodore 64's drive system.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
the
'cause
Apple II people also.
My first computer was a Commodore, and I hate the Commodore 64. Yeah. But my actual first computer was the Commodore Plus 4. So, but yep, that's my project update.
That's cool.
So I'm going to ask the great master of software and programming. So, Curtis, how is my code?
Oh, I was going to pass it on to Nick. I don't touch that disk basic crap. I'm almost 9 all the way. So.
Oh, so I have to do it in Basic 09 for your.
Oh yeah. Then you'd be getting some critique
For you to tear it up.
Right. You didn't
It also would run much faster. I'll just tell you that too. So.
Oh, okay.
You didn't put your name in there, did you?
No. I don't want to be associated with that garbage.
14 years from now, when it's CoCoTALK number 642, they're going to run across the program and go, I don't know who made this.
Yep. It's part of his being open source, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm about the code. I'm not about the glory. I mean, if I do the timestamps for the glory and the women. I do the code because it needs to be done.
And how's that going for you?
Well,
the timestamp part I'm asking about.
Yeah, well, I've got the most beautiful woman on this planet. So it
Why
went
didn't she
well.
come on?
Huh?
Her name's
Why
Coco.
Why doesn't she come on?
Because she has more sense than to be associated with this crew of.
Yeah, she didn't say that he's the most gorgeous guy on the planet, guys.
No,
so
I guess not.
No.
You know,
Am I
he's
the most
talking about
gorgeous
the
guy on the
cocoa.
planet?
Doesn't go both ways. Huh?
No
So-
comment.
No comment.
See? Yeah, I went up when I was in the relationship business. So.
Anyway, all kidding aside, though, that's really cool that you're using the Coco for your segment. Ken's using the Coco for the segment.
Yeah. So.
And Nick just polishes Ferraris.
Well, one day I hope to have a Ferrari. Because I figured Nick got started doing basic, so I'll start doing basic, and then I'll move on. And
in 40 years, you'll be up to writing Pop Star Pilot Part 3 or something. Yeah.
No, let's not be too optimistic. I was thinking about 80, 90 years. I'll be maybe doing something like Gem Hunter.
Jerry
You'll be
Landry's comment is, I love the way you indent your nested loops, baby.
You'll be shopping for shoe
You're a fan.
boxes soon.
You're a fan, Sloopy.
Woohoo!
Ron's just shaking his head.
It's a good thing I can do hardware because my software skills are.
Yeah,
I'm starving.
I'm the polar opposite of you because if I try to do hardware, I would just light my house on fire. So,
Hey, why do you think I have no hair? I burnt it all when I was a kid.
Sleepy, mate. If it works, it works. All right.
Yep.
It works. It works. Yeah.
Yeah.
You good?
Absolutely. Yeah, because the first one worked, and I was like, "Woohoo! I'm done." And then it went bye bye, and then this one, it's not as structured as the other one, as you can tell by the line numbers. They're like all over the place.
Well, there is a renumber. There is a renumber.
yeah,
command.
there's a renumber command. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not used to that because Atari Basic doesn't have renumber, and neither does machine language.
Yes,
Well,
it does.
Don't tell me about machine language, mate.
Well, and if you were anal like me, you wanted to plop your subroutines on the even thousands or something like that. And
Yeah,
then,
that's what I did too.
I did. That's where the way they are. They're 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000.
and then renumber comes through and just makes it all blah.
Well, that's why you renumber only sections. Like you renumber the 3,399. Because
Yeah,
if you'll
you can do
notice
that too.
if you'll notice when you looked at my code from 0 to 999, that is the main flow of the program, and then it goes from go subs for each of the individual parts of it. And like 3,000 to 399 is 3,999 is where it shows the timing countdown. And I'll start by putting the framework of I'll put 3,000 in with a REM statement that says what that whole subroutine does, and then I'll put the 3,999 in with the return, so that part is done. So that as I'm working on the individual parts, I can just hit run, and the parts that aren't done, they'll just have empty subroutines that'll go and come back, and it'll just test the parts that are working.
And then basically, of course, you just do run. You just name your procedure, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
like print score, print name. And you do run, print name, and then that's nice and obvious in the REMs.
Yeah, because obviously in ECB you can just do run and a line number.
Yeah.
Although I do use line numbers in Basic 09, but it's just to make documentation points, if you will. So
See, I don't. I just put the REMs in straight where they're supposed to go. The only thing I use line numbers for is that you have to is for on error go to. Like if you want to trap an error, that does require a line number.
Yeah.
right, but like I say, I use them to get to my documentation. So it's almost a vestige of the old DECB line number, and that
Oh, okay. What I do there is I usually know like the documentation will mention this routine does graphics or something like that. I just do a search graphics and it'll just find that word and there I am.
Here's my contribution to programming. I can remember when I was doing line numbers, you learn that you can put jam a lot into one line because they give you like 256.
Yeah, man.
Because without that, you know, and then.
Yeah, especially if you had color basic, because you didn't get renum until extended basic. So you're cramming away on a 4K machine here, and you keep inserting lines. All of a sudden, you got lines 1 through 10. I got to insert something else here, and I have no line numbers left. What do I do?
Yeah,
and you start retyping a line with a ton of stuff.
What I thought was interesting is the pineapple method of reference. I actually first encountered it with DDWRT, the router firmware. Basically, you have a long list of a long text file, and in DDWRT, for different models of routers, you have to go to different sections. So what they do is they put a out-of-band word in the beginning of that section. Like pineapple is not going to come up in a normal conversation about computers. So they would put the word pineapple at the beginning of a section and say, just go to this page and search for pineapple, or go to this page and search for kiwi, or go to this page and search for whatever it was on that page for the section that they wanted you to find.
We search for crikey.
Yes, absolutely. And
that's exactly how I do comments in Basic 9, to be honest.
Yeah, and that was
crikey.
That was a rather interesting thing that I came across, and I think
we banned shipping of crikey earlier today. Weren't you listening, Nick?
Yeah. Yeah. Besides, all terms are in band, not out of band. You want out of band words.
Yeah, something won't normally show up. So actually, just a serious question for you, Sloopy. What is you programmed a little bit of BASIC on the Atari and stuff there? What is your opinion of extended BASIC on the CoCo comparatively?
Honestly, the only thing that I don't like about it is I'm used to a full screen editor.
Yeah,
where you can just like go up and then change a line real easily, and then hit enter and it re-enters it. Other than that, it's not too bad. I mean, it's obviously more full-featured than Atari Basic, but then Atari Basic was also not because of mismanagement and miscommunication. Atari Basic itself was not actually the final version, and it's missing a lot of things. And I left Atari Basic pretty quickly. I mean, like the basic computer games, I rewrote many of them for the Atari. But by that point, you also have to remember is that I had owned a computer for 6-8 months before I owned the Atari, which was the Plus4, and it had the machine language monitor in it. So because the Plus4 had the basic 3.5 in it, which was much more advanced than either the Atari Basic or the Basic that was on the PET and the VIC and the 64, I was used to a Basic that was a little bit more feature rich, like Extended Basic. So I was able to acclimate to it pretty well, because most of the things that are different are limitations within Atari Basic, so it was more expanded, so to speak. But
you still prefer the full screen editor compared to the edit?
Yeah, but the full screen, the being able to full screen edit is the only real thing that I felt was lacking. And other than that, it seems fine. It seems like a fully functional and capable Basic.
You talked about the machine language monitor on the Plus4.
Yep.
Yeah, that's also in the PET.
Yeah.
It's always been the PET.
Right. It just wasn't in the VIC-20 or the 64, but
it wasn't in the VIC-20 or the 64. It was in the PET.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
SUS 1024.
Yep.
4096, you know, and it breaks you right into the 6502 debugger.
Yeah, it's like call -151 on the Apple II.
Yeah, yeah, because that was the Plus4 was actually my first computer at home. It was what I was used to, and that the lack of the machine language debugger in the Atari was a significant short-sightedness in it, in my mind, also. So.
Now, I will mention on the editors, because I mean, I got used to the Apple II Plus editor, which did Control I, J, K, whatever the key I am. Going across, and then I got used to the edit command, which is kind of like on the PCG was basic and on the CoCo's extended basic. And for me, it's kind of like half a dozen of one, 6 of the other type thing, because there's certain cases where the edit command I can edit stuff a lot faster. I can hit 30D and it'll delete 30 characters. I don't have to count them out with a cursor or something like that. Right. So in that case, it's faster. But if you're trying to duplicate part of one line into another, it's much easier to use the screen editor type thing. So
yeah, because
it works both ways for me. There's sometimes I like one better than the other. I wish something actually had both.
Yeah, because let's say you're doing like in my program where I've got the 3 lines: if debug $= quote letter, then that variable equals, and then different numbers. With that, you just go over the line, change the line numbers to the line numbers you want, and then go back and change each, like the letter between the quotes and the numbers for the variable, and boom, you're done. But with an edit program, can you even do that? I don't think you can, but I may be wrong. I don't know the edit program really well. So,
but like, so Basic 09, you can use the Basic 09 editor, or I use Dynastar.
Yeah,
and I use VED. Like you can use a full screen, text processor, and everything you can do in the word processor type thing.
Yeah. Well, on the Atari, I did more programming in Action and assembly than I did in Basic. So, and Action is a C like C, Pascal, etc. like programming language, where it has a text editor built into it, and it's a very nice language. And for assemblers, I would not recommend the Atari assembler for anything. It actually uses line numbers. Yes, like basic line numbers, because the assembler editor cartridge for the Atari was actually the basic cartridge modified to be able to do assembly.
Oh, yummy.
Yes, so you actually have to use.
All we got to do is mangle these lookup tables beyond all recognition, and this is the assembler.
Yep. I mean, but the thing is that you have to remember back in 1979 when the Atari 800 was released, assemblers were not that feature rich, and macro assemblers were only on minis and bigger.
Right.
So it was a product of the times, so to speak. So it wasn't a completely out of the question release.
Yeah, that's funny. The tasks are similar, so yeah. I could see.
Yep.
Try programming Prolog.
I looked at it. I read the book.
And you just
sat in the
left it.
corner. I sat in the corner whimpering and crying.
Yeah, Prolog predicates for everything. It's wacky.
But yeah, I mean, it's a shame that Action didn't continue on.
There we have Richard Harding of the Dragon Users Group at the pub.
Hello, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can also hear the crowd, of course. But
yeah, it's very noisy. I'm trying to do the camera flip. There we go.
Hello, America.
So, this is ye old English pub with beer.
And it looks like you might have had pizza at one point, but it looks like you're pretty well finished.
I haven't had mine yet. I was just doing a pre-pizza before I got all my greasy fingers into it. But I was just going to say, we've reached the most important point of the meeting.
The pints.
So everybody... Hey. So I was just popping in to say hello as promised from the pub. Everybody say goodbye to the CoCo crew, people. Say
Richard, quick question for you. Do you plan on streaming tomorrow?
No, there's no plan to stream tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and chill out and actually look at things.
Tell them it's CoCoTALK, not CoCo Crew.
Well,
they're drunk. They don't know what they're saying.
Well, there was somebody going around talking about CoCo's Crew stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then I think it just got mixed up because there was like two things going on at the same time.
All right, have another beer.
There is rumors of Coco Crew trying to get in on the act.
Anyway, thanks again for streaming there, Richard.
Oh, they got another satellite.
Battery's drunk.
Well, it's nice that they're all having a great time at my birthday party.
They're coming back.
Yeah, you're breaking up there, Richard, so we'll probably have to drop the call for now.
Yes, no problem. Catch you later.
Okay, catch you later.
The phone's in the beer.
Yeah, it's nice that someone's having a good time at my birthday party. I wish I could have gone.
Are you trying to say it's your birthday, Sloopy?
No, it's not my birthday. It's the 31st adversary of my. It's the 21st adversary of my 30th birthday.
It's my body and I cry for 1, 2.
But they're drunk enough. You can say it and they'll believe it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. Big thanks to once again to the Dragon MeetUp people there. I mean, this call did not actually do too much, but the earlier tours and stuff was actually awesome. And watching the trivia show. So any of those that joined late, we did stream the Dragon MeetUp live from England earlier before the CoCoTALK show officially started. So if you guys have not caught that yet, it should be on the various places like Twitch and YouTube and Facebook as a separate stream that you can watch. And there's some pretty interesting hardware and stuff that was shown, plus some other computers that use 680X or 680X processors that were shown off as well. And I don't know if we have anything else for our show today, do we? Anybody else got any other project updates or acquisitions or any general comments?
What's for next week?
I don't have a clue. Do you have a scheduled speaker next week?
Well, it's Brian Weasler, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he canceled. So
We'll
if this
never-
was next week, then it's
Again.
not happening.
We'll never
Yeah, he's
know
good.
what he has.
Oh, we'll hear from him eventually. I think he's busy. He's out in the trucking there. He's got a CDL now since he's got that truckload of cocoa stuff, right?
Maybe he tried to ship something to Australia and it got stuck or something.
Ah, crikey.
Well, let's go ahead and run the outro then.
Yeah, actually, we had no scheduled guests for next week because of Brian pulling out last week. So yeah.
So,
Next one
and
up is David Lent. That'll be on December 11th.
What about David Ladd?
He needs no introduction. He can come on and get interviewed anytime.
This concludes another episode of CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Calor computer, MC10, and Dragon systems. For all things CoCoTALK, visit us on the web at CoCoTalk.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to CoCoTalk@CoCoTalk.live. Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, click on the Patreon link on our website, CoCoTalk.live. CoCoTalk would not exist without the community, its cast, crew, and contributors. Thanks go to Alan Murphy, Amigos Retro Gaming, Bill Noble, Brian Joyce, Brian Weasler, Curtis Boyle, D. Bruce Moore, Danny O'Connor, David Ladd, Eric Canales, George Jansen, Grant Leedy, James Diffendapper, Jason Reichert, Jim Brain, Ken Reichert, Ken Waters, Mark Bosley, Mark Overholzer, Mikey Furman, Mr. Dave 6309, Nick Marentes, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Paul Fiscarelli, Richard Lorbieski, Rick Adams, Rick Ulland, Rob Inman, Ron Delvaux, Samuel Gimes, Sloopy Malibu, Steve Bjork, Terry Steggy, Tom C., and many, many more. Please help support the CoCo community. A list of various contributors and resources are available at imacoconut.com. That's IMACOCONUT.com. The original CoCoTALK theme song is copyright 2008 by D. Bruce Moore and Greg Sheeler. The new CoCoTALK theme song is copyright 2020 by D. Bruce Moore. Both are mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. Coco forever!
And we're back with the caboose.
Yeah, next week on CoCoTALK, join us for part 1 of our 3,000 part series by David Ladd and the floppy disk.
Not happening. Nope.
Actually, that's a threat. If people don't start coming up with content, that's what's going to be down to.
Part 1, the paper envelope.
How to write on a label is part 2.
Or how to make a label stick after 40 years.
Part 47, fun with felt tip pens.
The Write Protect label, your friend, your foe.
Yeah, especially when it gets gummed up.
And there's
inside the drive.
a special sub-series on the multicolor floppy disk packs.
Anyway, once again, a big thank you to the Dragon Meetup people. A big thank you to Ken and Sloopy for the Game On challenge stuff and also the live play stuff. And I'm glad Sloopy's going to be trying to get some of our European viewers involved here too by doing a second stream at some point. Are you planning on starting that fairly soon, Sloopy, or are you going to wait till a certain time when you have time to set it up? Or what?
I want to see what kind of response we get to it. I'm going to be posting in the Dragon group to see if people would be interested in it, and on the CoCoTALK group the Coco group on Facebook to see what kind of response, because I'm already sitting there by myself for the first 10 to 20 minutes on the show.
I work weird hours, so the European matinee might actually be a better time for me. So,
yeah, you said that a different time would be better for you. So.
Yeah, yep. But
and having this alternate time will also mean Ron DeVoe will no longer have an excuse not to play every game every week. So,
yeah.
Then we can say to Ron, "We gotcha."
Gotcha.
On the floppy disks, we're putting it to the real test.
The elephant memory test, yeah.
Yeah, it says never forgets. Well, the label didn't last. It fell off.
And yes, as I was asked, yes, today is actually my birthday.
Oh,
so,
well, happy birthday.
Mine's tomorrow.
Happy birthday, then. I would have had some party favors.
Yours is
so
tomorrow.
How old are you, Sleepy? Because mine's tomorrow.
See, now the day I had a birthday that was during a show day, I went to King's Dominion. I went to a theme park. I wasn't even here.
That's because I'm not that cool. I'm not that special.
Yeah.
I mean, my life is so bad. I'm here.
Hey, I broadcasted my birthday.
Ah, well.
So, I just turned 51, Curtis.
54 for me tomorrow. So.
Youngsters.
Right.
Hey.
Well, happy birthday, Curtis.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you, Curtis.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right.
Tune in for part 72 of David Ladd's floppy series for Magnetic Flux.
All right. Now you can cut the show off. Asparagus.
Yeah,
See you all next week.
Yeah, push the button, Frank.
Bye, everybody.